attitudes. Yesterday we started all other students who have joined and who would be joining like in the process. So as we are like discussing about attitudes, yesterday we started with attitudes, and in that we like moved to the second segment. Towards the end I was discussing about moral attitudes, if all of you remember. So, with respect to moral attitude, yesterday I discussed about three different meanings of moral attitude, right? So, with respect to it, when we were discussing about it, the three different meanings of moral attitude, I explained this given dimension that first meaning of moral attitude, when we are reflecting upon it, is associated with our general attitude towards morality. With respect to our general attitude towards morality, I said that Indians generally have a weak positive attitude towards morality. Right, so we have weak positive moral attitude. Sometimes we have neutral moral attitude or ambiguous moral attitude. And why do we have this like so-called weak, positive, neutral, or ambiguous attitude? The reason was India is undergoing a transition phase, a phase of tremendous change. Britishers introduced heavy amount of administrative corruption while Indians were working under them. And with like corruption, systemic corruption, unfolding generation after generation for almost 150 years in the system, we all could see that our virtuous connect with morality got somewhere disturbed or got somewhere shaken. Then we also see that post independence, our constitution introduced virtuous possibilities related to our moral attitude, like the we can say the moral attitude pertaining to equality. So on one hand the constitution was talking about possessing a moral attitude of equality, and on the other hand we all could see that when we are speaking of the component of inequality, that was something which has been prevailing for centuries together with respect to caste based inequality, religious inequality, gender based inequality. So a society which was trained to behave with like perceptions of inequality, suddenly through the constitution we were like endorsing the possibility of exercising equality. And this phase whereby you are like stuck, what should we follow? On one hand inequality has been facilitative in the functioning of the society, and inequality has been like facilitative in the functioning of the society via caste system, via we can see the possibility of religious divide, via the possibility of gender inequality, whereby women are encouraged to perform specific types of household function which eases the process for the society per se. And when we speak of equality, equality was something which was providing new opportunities and broader possibilities for individuals, right? So equality on one hand was a necessity, and it was something which people were becoming aware of their rights. And inequality was something which people were unable to on one hand exercising and on one hand protesting. Henceforth in this transition phase, either weak more positive attitude would get created, or we can consider neutral attitude would be something which would get created, or if the dissonance is high, then we can see ambiguous attitude. You can just remember, recall and revise the we can say the slide that was provided yesterday, the graph that was provided yesterday. Okay, so because of which we see that in India we have weak moral attitude or neutral attitude towards morality. So that is the general attitude towards morality when we try to interpret the meaning of moral attitude. The second meaning was associated with attitude that helps us integrating our morals with our actions. While explaining the second meaning, that moral attitude is the attitude that is helping us integrate our morals with actions, I said, what kind of attitude do we possess which is impacting our behavior, which is impacting our action? And I gave you the examples pertaining to reverence, veracity, responsibility, faithfulness, goodness. These terms look simplistic. Or when you read, you're like, oh yes, I am aware of these words. But until and unless you are unable to articulate these words in your own terms, you really don't know it. So get into the habit of memorizing it till the time it becomes your own expression, right? So with respect to goodness, when we are speaking of it, so goodness with respect to what Yudhishthira like proposes, what is the insight pertaining to Yudhishthira? Right, so like the three stages of goodness in Islam. So what does Islam talk about? The three stages of goodness: the first stage of goodness is towards your loved ones, like parents, family, okay, when you are speaking of it, friends. So when we are talking about two benefactors, benefactors means people whom you love and who are dependent on you, right? In anticipation means in hope of goodness in exchange, in hope of goodness in exchange. But the highest level of goodness is when you don't hope for any kind of exchange. You are good because you are good. You are behaving in a good manner, with a great attitude, with a moral attitude, because that is who you are. So it's unconditional level of exercising morality in your day to day life. So that is something which you can connect with when you are talking about in anticipation, right? And third subsegment is associated with unconditional. When love is unconditional, when you are just going ahead with the possibility of how you are extending the goodness per se. No problem, Basav Raja. I'm just giving a recap of yesterday's session so that anyone who has missed it or anyone who has lack of clarity, after listening to it again, it will be just fixed. The problem will be after 15 minutes if someone joins in and asks that, ma'am, please give a brief recap of yesterday's session. That will be, like, you can understand, an immoral expectation, right? So that's what. Now, so, and with that reminds me that one of you had asked that, ma'am, please explain moral, amoral and immoral. So I'll explain that also. So, with respect to it, the third meaning, when we are speaking of it, attitude which is based on our moral conviction. So, attitude based on our moral conviction can be connected with this subsegment, that attitude which is based on cognitive component. Cognitive, you remember, this is associated with our belief system, right? So, something which is based on our beliefs. Okay, our ideologies, our beliefs. So, attitude which is based on our beliefs, when we are talking about it, like someone does not believe in gender discrimination, so such a person will exercise gender equality. So the belief, the logic, the facts will say that exercise gender equality, and that will be emanating, emerging from the attitude that will be not behaving with gender discrimination, having a gender discrimination free tendency. That is something which will impact our action, our the way we behave in public. Similarly, there were three terms: moral, amoral or non-moral, okay, and immoral. So moral, when you are introduced to morality, and morality, when we are speaking of it, it is guided by some universal ethos or principles. Okay, universal ethics, values or principles are guiding you, okay, guide you to be moral. So that's why morality, on an average, has a universal tinge. Like across the world, it is considered to be moral. And when you say it across the world, we consider that integrity is a moral behavior, right? Honesty is a moral behavior. Discipline is a moral behavior. Uprightness is moral behavior. Transparency and accountability is a moral behavior across the world, across civilizations, across countries, right? Because there is a standard way of thinking what is right, what is wrong, and the standard way, universal way of thinking what is right, what is wrong is called ethics. Then what should be done is called values. What should be done, which is right, which is wrong, so that is values. And all this is influencing what? Our personal sense of right and wrong. And what is our personal sense of right and wrong? That is called morals. Okay, so that's why morals have a universal connect as well, a universal understanding or insight as well. Similarly, morals are based on strong emotion, a very strong emotion, because you have a strong sense of what is right, what is wrong, and what ought to be practiced. Like a strong sense of like or dislike towards specific kind of food items, cultural items. And that's why you have strong motivation to inspire people around you to behave in a specific manner, to be moral in nature, right? So that's being moral. Now, what is amoral? I said amoral means it has nothing to do with morality, nothing to do with morality, and for which I explained it from two perspectives. It can have two dimensions. One is a child who is not introduced to morality, okay, who is not introduced, who is not introduced to morality. That is, what is right, what is wrong, that's one possibility. And the second possibility associated with, we can consider non-moral or amoral, is like doing some random things like sitting on a chair. It has no moral angle to it. Okay. So sitting on a chair, or we can consider traveling to a different city, traveling to a, traveling to a city. So these acts have nothing to do with the moral compass, whether the work is more like guided by morality or not. No, they are just simple, plain acts, as simple as that. Yes, like breathing, it is just a non-moral or amoral act, like breathing, drinking water, like that. Okay. Now, when we speak of, yes, I had taught this moral wala concept in the first lecture also, Sarashti, and it was expected that everyone connects, recalls, revises. Now, what is immoral? When you know, okay, you are aware, you are informed, okay, so you are aware or informed, that informed about what is morally correct behavior, what is morally correct, but you don't follow it, okay, but you don't follow it. And please, SME, support me just like morning with the queries, so that we are able to step into emotional intelligence chapter and able to complete a sizable portion of it as well, the way we did it with morning batch, so that when the miscellaneous queries will be taken care of and I'm not distracted by it, I'll be sticking to the core explanation and be able to pull through this batch also, like the morning batch. So you are aware, you are informed about what is morally correct, but you don't follow. Okay. So what happens? You become morally incorrect. So morally incorrect. This morally incorrect behavior is something which is called immoral. Fine. So this is something which I believe all of you have revised it now multiple times. Like yesterday I explained it at least twice or thrice. Then you must have revised at home. Again, like revisiting it right now. Again, the question is, do we need a strong moral attitude? To which I said that there is a difference between strong and healthy. Now, what attitude should we have? We should have healthy attitude. Why? Because strong is associated with rigid, being rigid about what is right, what is wrong. So truth is, rather than having a strong attitude from here onwards, you have to start understanding, because this is afresh for all of you. So rather than having a strong attitude, we need to have healthy attitude. So healthy attitude, because see, moral attitude, though they have positive consequences, but they can have a dark side as well. People guided by their moral attitude, if they become rigid, okay, if they start believing that what we believe and we feel is the best thing, so anyone else believing in something else or exercising something else is wrong, and because they are wrong, we have the moral right to bully them, beat them. In the name of preaching and advising, we can coerce our choices, our actions upon them. So that can encourage mob lynching, that can encourage conflict in the society, that can encourage communalism, that can encourage fundamentalist tendencies, okay, that can encourage loss of social capital, okay, cultural capital. So when people develop rigidity, when they feel that their moral attitude is the best attitude, it's the correct attitude, and rest others are not being morally upright, so that can create distance and rivalry. This rigidity, okay, this rigidity creates distance and rivalry, poor level of cooperation and consensus. And when cooperation and consensus goes down in a society, disagreement over social norms can happen, loss of social capital can happen, okay, and because of which what will happen? Violence. So mob lynching, okay, communal violence, rioteering, community based clashes. And when all this is happening, social integration will be lost. If social integration is lost, then social capital will be lost, right? Hence, now I have concluded, hence, what is needed? Rather than having strong moral attitude, we need to have healthy moral attitude. And what is healthy? What is healthy moral attitude? So, healthy moral attitude implies when we are capable to review the quality of our moral convictions, moral attitudes. Conviction means determination. All those people who don't know these basic words and meanings for them. Okay, so when we are having healthy moral attitude, we are open to review. So we are thinking that, okay, fine, we respect cow as an animal, we don't believe in eating the meat of the cow, but we should be open that if some another person is eating a specific meat and that is permissible in their community, that's their choice. And animals when killed, it is loss of animal rights. So like when we are staying in a specific society which is so diverse, we have to be okay about it. Similarly, if someone comes to know that another community is eating a pig, so rather than heating, beating, mob lynching the person, we have to be clear that let them eat pig if that's their choice. It's their food, their body, like their choices, it's okay. So when we have the capability to review and upgrade rather than fight and get into a unnecessary debate over the given possibility, that is making us capable of reviewing our moral attitude and keeping it healthy. That because for the existence of social harmony, we have to accept diversity, that someone will dress up differently, so we should not do moral policing that wearing these kind of clothes only makes you cultured, behaving in this manner only makes you cultured. Okay, so when we don't try to determine that only one method is the best method, okay, that is something which will keep diversity ticking, and that will keep violence or rivalry or friction under control. Okay, so that's why we need to review and upgrade our attitudes continuously. Okay, that's how we are supposed to eat. Okay, with any kind of meat, whether it is peacock or horse or donkey, whatever, Vijay. Okay, that's what I imply to say. Anything, like whether it is cow, pig, X, Y, Z, anything. I am not eating, it's my choice. I am not going to be judgmental as I move across the world, across the states, across communities to judge what other people are doing. Because isn't it a matter of, like I would say, chance that we are born in a specific family, born in a specific context, and we gain that specific context from our societies, that what is right, what is wrong, what is do, what is don't, right? Had we even got exchanged in our cradles, in the cradles, if at hospital level only we would have got exchanged, would our sense of right and wrong be the same as it is today? We have to question that, right? That is a very profound question that was raised by even Rabindranath Tagore in his this novel called Gora. I had read it in graduation, okay, when I was your age. At that time, I had read this novel Gora, in which the possibilities of racism, casteism, Brahminical purification, all those issues were raised. The role of Brahmo Samaj and all that was raised and discussed and debated quite exhaustively in his novel Gora. And that actually spoke of this given dimension, that how important it is to review and upgrade our moral convictions and moral attitude. So that is something which makes us capable of thinking the and seeing the larger context. Now this is something very important which I am going to explain to all of you. SME, please continue to keep supporting me. uh, Vivek, difference between amoral and non-moral, I have explained. What were you doing? Why were you not paying attention? For your sake only, I explained it. And this would be probably fifth time if I try to indulge. So I'm leaving the responsibility to the SME. Okay, amoral and non-moral, I have already explained. Here, please revisit this given sheet, which I have already written over here. Okay, so amoral is another word for amoral is non-moral, and I explained it from two perspectives. So please be alert at all times when the lecture is going on. Don't slip like an eel in between for few seconds or few minutes, because you will miss the possibility. I'm moving ahead in the expectation that you will be like at all times be alert, all of you. All right. And SME, please support me with the minor examples and queries that students are asking. That's also important. Okay. Now, so as we are explaining political attitudes, so political attitudes, you must have heard right wing, left wing, right? So let us try to understand what kind of political attitudes we have in this world. So there is right wing and there is left wing when we speak of it. Now, why is left wing called left wing? Because in like in France, before the king, the people who were sitting in the left side of the court or left side of the house, they were the people who were always raising voices against proposed changes that was needed in the French society. They were the people who were suggesting, like suggesting a lot of, we would say, possibilities that ought to be brought, that ought to be incorporated, okay, in the given society. And I would say it is like the French people who were the ones who were the especially the left wing of the house was the one which was having revolutionary tendencies, was having tendencies for bringing about massive change in the French society. Okay, so from there only the insight came that left is associated with radical change or highest version of change. You can see that as we are moving in this direction, the component of change is reducing. So left side there is more change, and right side you can see the tendency to demand for change is reducing. So there are 5 types of political attitudes exercised across the world. 5 types. Okay. One is reactionary, second is conservative, third is moderate, fourth is liberal, and fifth is radical. Okay. So reactionary, conservative, moderate, liberal, radical. Now let us understand these attitudes, these political attitudes from a detailed perspective. So here you can see there is a diagram, because you people complained that ma'am, your handwriting, you. So what I did was, one of the copies of my students who had written beautifully, I was like, give me the copy and I'll just take a screenshot and send it to me. And then I got it done in the PPT, so that you don't have complaints about the handwriting. You can see and you can understand it in a better manner. Okay, so now I'll be explaining with respect to this because it's more cursive. So I thought that if you see cursive, you will be happy that yeah, it is something which, like I can understand. So this is for generating happiness for all of you. So you can see that this is associated with what? So you can see there is right wing, there is like left wing. You can see this right and left. And with respect to this, as we are like moving ahead with respect to this given sub dimension, we all can see that there are reactionaries, conservatives, moderates, liberals, and radicals, as we were talking. So we can understand them with the level of change, like who is expecting the intensity of change, how and in which manner, right? So we can like reflect upon the component of change. So high level of change to low level of change. Okay, what are the methods used by them, what is the speed with which they expect the change, and what is the nature of change that they want. So to explain this, there are two technical terms which I have used, which few of you might not be comfortable or you might not be knowing, that is inorganic and organic. So what do I imply by this term inorganic, organic, which you are seeing over here? So to explain the same, let me like first explain the meaning of inorganic and organic and then explain this chart. So inorganic means when you are putting ideas, from outside, like for example, we can think of constitution. Okay, so constitution is created through inorganic method. So created, I mean, I don't need to write. I think it's implicit the moment I'm writing it with under inorganic. So the constitution is created through inorganic methods, means You all know that constitution has borrowed its values, its ideals from across the world, right? Everyone knows that India's constitution has borrowed a lot of insights, like pieces of wisdom, from different parts of the world. And that's why it is one of the lengthiest constitutions in the world, because it has borrowed so many ideas. That's why it's inorganic, like the ideas are coming from outside. Then comes the component of organic. Organic implies the change that happens by itself. The change that happens by itself. And when we are saying the change that happens by itself, means it is like self emanating change, change which is happening from within. There is a term for it which is in Tatsam, or Sanskrit related term. This is like Swatah Spurt. Swatah Spurt, or organic, means something which is happening by itself. Like it is considered that the like standard growth of rate, even if there is nothing being done in the economy, there is nothing like being exercised in the economy, then also 3% of natural growth rate shall happen. 3% of effortless growth rate shall happen, which is also called the Hindu growth rate, whereby you are not doing anything to the economy, still at least 3% growth can happen under normal conditions, natural conditions, right? So when we are exercising this given possibility, then we all can like consider the segments associated with this possibility, and substantiate accordingly our sense of understanding. So reactionaries, they go by inorganic process. Inorganic means the so called culture or custom that they talk of reviving, they talk of bringing back, is no more a part of thought process, customary process, political process in the given society. So they have a, we can say, retrogressive approach to change, or you can also consider they have a regressive attitude to change. Okay, so retrogressive when we speak of it, or regressive. Regressive or retrogressive means let us go back to the old order, the fundamentalist tendency. So let us go back to the old order. So that's why the speed of change that they want is negative high, because they are aspiring to go back, not move forward, go back. So negative high, like in the graph, how do we portray negative when we are moving in the lower direction or the opposite direction? That's why it's negative high level of speed with which they want change. So going back to the old order, old, we can say, tradition, old customs, old practices. So that's why when they say that we will take our community or our religion or our country to the same old glorious times which was existing hundreds of years back or thousands of years back, whatever, they are reactionaries. So they also want change, but through inorganic methods, means that can be coming from religion, from some traditional customs and traditions which are not in practice, or they can also come from other countries or civilizations which they take as a context, that just like that country which is our actual point of origin, let us bring this ideal, this value. So this can be the tendency of reactionaries, and reactionaries are right wing. Okay, whether they belong to any religion, any community, they are right wing. Okay, now we can consider the, yes, they can also be connected to revivalists. Okay, so revivalists. Okay, then we can have conservatives. Conservatives are the one who want to maintain the status quo. Status quo means let us maintain the same political order, the let us maintain what's going on, and what is going on is perfect. So generally conservatives belong to the upper class or upper communities. Upper communities means they can be the dominating communities, like they can belong to a specific caste group or a gender group or a religious group, but traditionally they have been dominant in that country or society. So conservatives, for them the present system is perfect because it is working in their favor. So they have a status quoist like tendency. They don't want to bring about change, and with status quoist attitude, the kind of change they want is no change, and the speed with which they want change is zero, no change. They want to continue or sustain with their methods or tendencies. Okay, So they are referred as conservatives. Then we can reflect upon moderates. Moderates, when we speak of political attitude, so moderates are those who are aspiring to bring about change from within. Let the society change from within, arrive at its own frictions, challenges, insights, and get instant disciples and charges when organic business change need of the component are high. We all leftists, so no change is needed when we are speaking of it. Anyway, when we are speaking of liberals, we can also see the liberals, they are called center leftists also because they are close to center, yet they have a leftist tendency. So they use both organic and inorganic method. Organic means change happening from within, ideologies rising from within, people demanding the change from within, and inorganic methods also, borrowing from other communities, other countries, other civilizations, other religions, other ethos. So they are open for both the methods. The nature of change they want is gradual, normal. Okay. So and the kind of progress that they go for is gradually progressive. Okay. So the tendency is gradually progressive. Then comes radicals. Radicals are left wing people. So radicals are the ones who are tired of the system. They are the ones who are like exploited in the system. They are the ones who want tremendous transformative change occur in the system. Okay. So when we are speaking of radicals with respect to the kind of change that they want, we all can see this given possibility with respect to the term method is that when we are like reflecting upon the same, we can see that with respect to method in terms of radicals, we can see that they can use inorganic methods. Inorganic means borrowing from other countries, like let's say the Socialist Party of India. So the Socialist Party of India has a radical tendency. It will be supported by labor, it will be supported by workers, mining workers, it will be supported by lower class farmers, peasants, okay, landless labor. So they will go for inorganic methods. So they will quote Mao Zedong, they will quote, like we can say, Stalin, Lenin, they will be quoting East European leaders, okay, they'll be quoting Marx. The speed with which the change that they want is very high speed, and the kind of change they want is revolutionary, something which transforms the society, something which is like changing the fundamentals of the society. Like Karl Marx wanted to like bring about such a massive revolution that first the power belongs to the labor class, okay, or the proletariat, and later we don't even need the state. Everyone is working as per their effort, as per their skill, and taking as per their need. Okay, so contributing as per their, we can say, acumen, their effort, and just taking as per their need. So that is something which we all can connect with when we are speaking of the component of fundamentalist or the component of being revolutionary, when you are completely ready to transform the system. Okay, so generally radicals are those who are supported by the most downtrodden communities living in a society. The most exploited communities living in a society have a tendency to support radical political attitude. Okay, radical political attitude. Liberals, like you can connect them with kind of Congress. Okay, so Congress was considered as a center leftist party, and it had this kind of tendency. When we speak of moderates, well, this kind of tendency cannot be connected with any political party at present when we are speaking of the political attitude. um, and in many countries you will feel this challenge that moderates, it is tough to fit a political party in the category. Conservatives will be like it can be connected with BJP, because you will see that there will be, or any, like we can say, political party which is guided on the lines of maybe sometimes religion or caste, like BSP. It wants to revive the possibility associated with we can say the Brahmin Dalit alliance, you can think of it, right? So we can see Samajwadi Party, which talks about Samajwad, but it is not based on socialism. The principles are guided by religion and caste based politics. So conservative, when you are oppressive and you want to maintain the status quo, the order whereby the dominant community continues to be dominant. Okay, so that's also there when we are speaking of it. But remember, in every political party you will have mixture of elements. In every political party, some people you will find are liberals, some people are a bit radical also, and some people are reactionary also. That combination also exists. When you think of groups like Bajrang Dal, who are like beating the kids black and blue and moving with, like, painted hockey sticks on 14th of February on Valentine's Day, that let us find a couple, and today is the day when they have to be, like, they have to be decorated. So these people are the ones you can, yeah, or Shiv Sena also, when you are talking about it. So you can connect that with reactionaries when we are speaking of this given subsegment. Okay, so there are different political attitudes which are prevalent in different societies, and which determines the political trends of a given society. We can also add one more term which is extra, other than this, from right to left, the, like, political attitudes that that we know. Pacifists. So pacifists are the people who, like, they on an average, who just like reject any form of violence to bring change. Okay, any fine of, who have, so this is have, if anyone is struggling with the, like, what is this written, so who have rejected violence, they have just like rejected violence to bring about change. For example, Mahatma Gandhi. So such individuals are referred as pacifists. Okay, if anyone like is not able to associate the current and serving political party. Okay, Sarashti, if you don't know Karl Marx, don't like bang your head behind Karl Marx. This is neither sociology nor political science nor pubad class that I have to talk about Karl Marx at length. If you don't know that Karl Marx was not even distantly a capitalist, though he wrote Das Kapital as his book, but it was not making him a capitalist. He was the person fundamentally who was anti-capitalism. Okay, so you have to go a long way, beta. Your journey is very long, and you have to really read and catch up a lot. So you have just got introduced to the word Das Kapital written by Karl Marx, and the confusion is there. I can sense it. No worries. Read about biography of Karl Marx. You can find videos, good university videos on biography of Karl Marx, international university videos, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, as per your shraddha and choice. Okay, so you can just listen to that, and that will give you very much clarity about who he is, not core to what we are discussing right now. So I won't substantiate upon it now. So when we are speaking of this given dimension, these are the popular political attitudes. Okay, political attitudes which influence the thought process and the possibility associated with a given country. All right. So now, the question arises that why the youth in India have a negative attitude, okay, a negative attitude towards politics in India. I mean, like 15 lakh students appearing for UPSC exams, 15 lakh students filling the form of UPSC, right? And not even 1 lakh aspiring to become politician. Why? Why the youth has such a negative tendency towards, or negative attitude towards politics? That's the question. So when we speak of this given subsegment, we all can see that the prime reason behind having a negative attitude towards, like we can say, politics per se, can be associated with the prime dimension that in India we all can see there is dynastic politics. So people feel we don't have a fair chance to climb up the ladder. At least in bureaucracy, we will have a fair chance to get promoted. Sometimes people feel that it is based on money and muscle power, and we don't have either of it. So money and muscle power. So no fair chance to again climb up the ladder. Again, it is not treated as a fair profession. So it is not treated as a noble profession. So if a person is saying that I want to be a politician, so half the people will see that person as a with doubt and say that maybe this person is too crooked, and politics is something which is suiting him or her. So people don't see that, oh, this person is trying to be a politician to serve the society. That's the last thought people think of. Again, there is a problem of long gestation period. You have to wait a lot to actually climb the power ladder, sometimes 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. So people like who have studied with you in college, they get the job, they get married, they have children, their family starts, and till that time maybe a youth is still struggling to establish his or her career in politics. So in this given situation we can see that, you know, the long gestation period associated with this given possibility can impact the conditions tremendously when we are speaking of it. Okay, so education, job, marriage, family, all these things, when that gets delayed, people are scared to join politics because the quality of life can be compromised for quite a number of years. So they don't have the courage to get into politics or struggle for it. Again, we can see there is lack of role models also. Earlier we had Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, Nehru ji, Lal Bahadur Shastri ji, who acted as role model for the youth, inspiring them that how a leader ought to be. But now if you talk about politicians, half the people mock or they don't feel like, you know, connected with the idea of greatness coming from a leader. They will always try to find faults or flaws in the leader, which also discourages the very possibility of seeing the ideal person like creating massive change in politics. So that's also there. So you can keep brainstorming and keep adding the points. Now, what steps can be taken in this regard? So what steps can be taken? If we speak of it, you can talk about youth parliament. So because you have to change the attitude and speak of youth parliament. Along with youth parliament, you can also at school and college level, so that children become trained to debate, to develop political attitudes at a young age. Okay, and that is something which is going to create greater political awareness, because when you have political awareness, you have defined political attitudes, then you know which political party to aspire to join. You can talk of electoral reforms. Along with electoral reforms, you can talk of, so electoral reforms will keep money and muscle power under check. No usage or exploitation through money and muscle power. Okay, so that's something. Again, you can think of we can say intra party democracy, so that a politician's son is not getting a fair chance to get the ticket and become an MP or an MLA. Any youth who is deserving, who is qualitatively good, has a fair chance to fight it. So intra party democracy can also be added with respect to this. Then we can connect it with placements from college. Placements from college, that can also encourage people to get associated with it. Okay, so placements, yes, we can also bring in RTI for political party. That's also something. Wow, proud and so happy to know this fact that you have got selected for Yuva Panchayat and you have represented your district. Congratulations from all of us. So when we are speaking of this given possibility associated with what steps can be taken in this regard, we all can think of the placements also. Like see that this Young India, no, not Young India Fellowship, this another one, LAMP Fellowship. Okay, LAMP Fellowship, which like students appear for the entrance, and then there are certain rounds that you have to clear, finally the interview, and when to perform well and to get associated with an MP and under an MP of Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, whoever is attached, under demand has to be raised. One of my students, Sugata Balagopal, I had taught her sociology in 16. Later on, so Meenakshi Lekhi, when she was the MP and GST was introduced, it was under the guidance of Meenakshi Lekhi ma'am that Sugata Balagopal and the juniors under her in the team drafted drafted that proposal before the then finance minister Arun Jaitley, that heavy GST should not be imposed on sanitary pads. Initially, it was proposed 16% of tax. Okay, so they said that it's a basic medical emergency and requirement. It's not a luxury item. So imposing 15-16% tax is something which is imposed on luxury item. But this is a necessary item. So tax should not be imposed. It should be tax free. Though the item did not become tax free, but definitely the amount we are speaking of it. All right. Again, when we are further discussing about this given dimension related to like why youth in इसमें होना चाहिए, why youth in India have negative attitude towards politics. Okay, so we all can see that the youth has this negative attitude because of these political attitude, the right political acumen, and getting connected with it accordingly. Now we step into another very important area from where again short or long questions can be asked. How our attitude gets formed? What are the methods through which attitude formation actually takes place? Okay, so we all know that attitudes are what? Learnt tendencies, and these learnt tendencies we are like acquiring this from different sources, right? Different sources. So different sources, when we are speaking of it, different agencies, and there can be different types of tools. So tools means how you learn it. So types of learning, how you get into it, and agencies like family, school, peer group, all that. So when we are talking about attitude formation, how our attitude gets formed. So attitude gets formed. Okay, I hope all of you are downloaded or gone through it. Please download it and start reading attitude. That is important for all of you, and it's going to fix your basics, your basic insights pertaining to attitude. Okay. Now, when we are discussing about this component of attitude formation, like social comparison, with respect to this direct conditioning, this is the easiest one. It is it fixed? Is it fixed? Just check, all of you. Still getting stuck or what? I don't know. No, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. What? It's okay now? All right, fine. It's fine. All right, all right. I have no clue why it was getting stuck. So, oh, okay, okay, okay. Maybe lag. This was nothing. Yesterday, when I was taking the optional session, at my studio, at that time, this also happened. That, there was power cut, and power cut happened 5 times. So the generator, the connection flips to the generator mode. So in the flipping, there was a lag, and it happened 5 times. Thanks to all the students who were patient. So I was just thinking that, oh my God, like this is such a massive issue happening in the national capital, a national capital, and that too, in one of the premium commercial areas, that is Rajendra Nagar, Karol Bagh. So just imagine what would happen to remote areas of India. But still, we should be thankful that in a third world country, at least we have now started getting access to these facilities, isn't it? That's so amazing. I mean, like 2 decades back, we couldn't have imagined that education can happen this way also. I mean, like when we were in college, just 20 years back, we couldn't think. And like in 2006, 7, 8, 9, we never had the idea of private libraries. There was nothing like private libraries. Sit in your home, or in your room, or in your hostel, or like PG, whatever someone is staying. And even if you have a roommate, because financial constraints, and be disciplined about your own studies. Refrain from talking. Have timing when you have to talk or gossip or chit chat. If you're getting ideas, write it in a chit of paper, that when I take the break, then I'll discuss these issues. But not taking a break at all. Being focused despite living with a person in the same like room or flat. And that's why we never needed private libraries. Like nowadays, when I see private libraries getting opened, not providing books, notes, nothing, just a space to sit and read. And for that, students are paying. And I'm like, this table chair method we had in our own flats, and we used to study like that. That was something which was there. So and also we can also connect with this dimension pertaining to, we used to go to library, the university library, and study there, like morning packing the bag, studying there. So a lot has improved. These technical lags once in a while, if even if it happens, I say that okay, this is still a long way that we have come as a country, as people. So is it fine now? Yeah. Is it fine? Yet not resolved? From our end, it's resolved. I can see that it is like moving smooth. Okay. Thank God. Thank you, all those people who are approving that it is fine, it is working well. Now, so with respect to it, all I was talking about, that attitude formation, I'll recall and recap. Okay. the last 5 minutes, so that no one has the tendency of missing it out, that the concept was missed out. Okay, so I'll give just a brief recap of what I was speaking in the last 5 minutes. So I said that attitude formation is a learnt tendency, and I said that because it is a learnt tendency, so we acquire it through different sources. When I say sources, we can think of different agencies. Wait, agencies, pen. Okay. So when I say agencies, so by agencies, I imply to say, like let's say family, the school, okay, the peer group. So we acquire it from different agencies, and we also acquire it from different types of tools. So different types of tools for learning, right? So when we are speaking of this given possibility pertaining to attitude formation and SME, can you just approve that if everything is functioning well? I think the tech team needs to be called. Don't worry, don't worry. I'm just working on it. Refreshed it once, despite refresh. हाँ एक बार करो. अच्छा अच्छा okay. Visible. What I'm writing is not visible. If what I'm writing is not visible, please refresh. Please refresh. Should a screen? Wait, I'll just use another color. Because yes, writing should also be visible. Yes, screen is visible. If you are one of them, if few students are struggling, please, not all okay. So for those students, please just refresh. You speak for past 5-10 from different sources, like we can say can be like peer group, right? It can be our educational institution, so educational institution like school, right? And it can be from different tools of learning, different tools of learning. And these are like agencies which are there in the society, so social agencies which helps us to develop an attitude when we are speaking of this given dimension. Why my recorded videos are not available? Well, Sarat, if you are looking for it in the tablet course, I never recorded for the tablet course. That's why it's not available. Because we were given a choice, would you like to record it for tablet course? So I had refused. I did not have time, and that's why I just agreed for the live class. If the live class is provided, then that is a different thing, but no tablet course. That's why you are not getting it. All right, now no management related segments which I'll be entertaining. SME, please support me with these kind of questions. uh, so uh, so you have other people, no, in the tablet course. It's not that ethics is not there in the tablet course. So, and let us not discuss about that, Abhi, right? That is something which you can discuss with the management when we are speaking of it, right? Let us get back to the content. Let us focus on what has to be taught, what has to be learned. So with respect to this, when we are talking about attitude formation being component related to attitude formation being there with respect to learned tendency, and what kind of learned tendency is shaping our possibilities. Okay, So we can connect it with 6 subsegments, that is classical conditioning, direct conditioning, instrumental conditioning, observation learning, role modeling, and social comparison. These 6 possibilities when we are speaking of. So in attitude formation, when we are substantiating the given possibility, so yes, don't worry, Priyanka, focus on the class, please. That's what is important for you. Why you bothered about the world when the world in the form of knowledge is pouring in your direction, right? Now, so when with respect to this, we are talking about attitude formation, let us reflect that how our attitude is formed through different tools or methods. So in this, amongst all these, the easiest one is direct conditioning. Direct conditioning is when you exercise obedience to the authority, okay, obedience to the authority, when you follow the rules and regulations, obedience to the authority. And how is that exercised? When you are like obeying the rules regulations, following the rules and regulations that are given to you as a instruction, as a piece of instruction, right? Okay. So yes. So when we are speaking of it, yes, the chapter is purely associated with psychology, attitude, aptitude, and emotional intelligence when we speak of it. So with respect to this obedience, when we are talking about, this is something which is there. So let us start one by one, each one of them. So classical conditioning. In classical conditioning, I can help you to connect it with first Pavlov's dog experiment. So what is Pavlov dog experiment? So classical conditioning, the term is associated with when two stimuli, okay, when there are two stimuli, and with respect to the two stimuli, when they are repeated or are repeatedly associated, repeatedly associated. So when two stimuli are repeatedly associated, the child learns to respond, the child learns to respond to them, learns to respond to them with, so it can be child, it can be anyone whom you are training, okay, with a similar emotional reaction, with a similar emotional reaction or similar emotional reaction or attitude. All right, when we are speaking of it. So, with respect to it, when we are talking about this Pavlov's dogs experiment, actually what happened was, under this experiment, the dog, when the moment it sees food, it starts like, salivating. It starts salivating like naturally, simply, right? So, because that's an unconditional stimulus, you see it and you are just salivating, simple. And then what happened when a whistle was blown for the dog was clueless. It was like, huh, what was that for? So there was no response coming from the dog. It was cold. It just saw the whistle and it's like, whatever. That kind of attitude it threw. Then what happened is that when we are speaking of this given possibility of classical conditioning, we see that there was a condition created whereby first the whistle was blown, and after blowing the whistle, food was served to the dog. So the moment the food was served to the dog started salivating, that okay, this is something which is there. So when the dog started salivating, there was an unconditional response, right? There was a conditioned kind of response that you started creating. After conditioning, what happens? The moment the whistle was blown, even when the food was not served, the dog started salivating, because it's a conditioned response. The dog understood that now the moment I am listening to the whistle, now food will be coming. So earlier, listening to the whistle, the dog was not reacting because the two stimuli were not associated. But now the two stimuli, as they were associated, the dog started responding. Okay, that is what is classical conditioning. Two stimuli repeatedly associated, and the child learns to respond, or the whoever is being put under condition, learns to respond with an emotional reaction or attitude. Now, connecting it to human beings, this component of classical conditioning, I can give you two examples. First, coming from 2018, just before like Lok Sabha election. So, what happened that suddenly the petrol prices rose up. It rose up so tremendously, like by 20-23 rupees. So, and you all know that at petrol pump, whatever schemes, policies, or interventions the government carries forward, there are posters associated with it. And because the prime minister is the leader, like leading the government, so he is the person whose posters are also put up along with the, like we can say, achievements of the scheme. So what happened as people were getting the petrol filled in their vehicles, so they were like really agitated, really heated about the price they had to pay for the petrol. And as they were paying that price, they were seeing that here is the guy and who is responsible for such a decision, because of which the price of petrol shot up, and then they could blame. So what happened was that there was a negative, like two stimulus are there. Petrol prices shot up, a person is feeling angry. The person responsible for such a decision, good or bad, all decisions goes to the, like we can say, the government. So the moment they could see the person to identify with reason, reason responsible for shooting up of the petrol price, it backfired. So in towards 2018 end, when like the political party was doing a survey, it realized that especially at petrol pumps where the posters are there is a lot of rousing sense of anger, and it is generating a negative attitude to the present government. So briefly, you could see towards the end of 2018 or beginning of 2019, in few areas where where the negative trend was much high, they changed the posters and they kept the pictures of the beneficiary, like women benefiting, old age people benefiting from a scheme, or children benefiting from a scheme, or farmers benefiting from a scheme. So the poster carried the symbol and the logo of the government, but majorly the image of the beneficiaries. That was also done so that the negative stimulus which is getting created, the classical conditioning which is getting created, which is generating a negative response, is put to check again. Okay, no problem, Varsha. Listen to the second example and you can connect with what I'm saying. Okay, so the second example you can again connect. Another example is coming from Jind, Haryana. So in Jind, Haryana, what was seen? That the sex ratio was too low. Too low. You can see this. This is like we can see it is like 832. So in 2012. So when the sex ratio was too low, the government looked into the conditions. What is the reason that people don't want a girl child and sex ratio is like disturbingly low? So what happened was they realized that with the birth of a girl child, people have a lot of challenges in their own mind, that oh, with the birth of a girl child we'll have to bear the dowry expenses. Other than the dowry expenses, there will be challenges pertaining to like looking into the, we can say, concerns, or looking into the conditions associated with, we can say, like no problem, no problem, I've not explained anything much, don't worry, Varsha. I'm just continuing with the dimension, so don't feel that fear of like missing it out. I'm explaining the same components again. All right, so yes, Nitesh, keep practicing. That's what. Keep practicing, memorizing, practicing. Revision is the key to success. A simple solution, but has multidimensional manifestations. So improve the level of revision, improve the level of quality recapping, recalling, okay, and building the, joining the dots, building the concepts. Multiple revisions is what is needed. Okay, getting back to it. So what happened was that in Jind, Haryana, the people, they realized that it is the reason for poor sex ratio is dowry, insecurity towards women, like women not being able to contribute to property, so taking them as a liability. And the most immediate reason, when it was asked, then a lot of people said that when boys are born, there is a feast. Okay, there is a feast, whereas when girls are born, there is no feasting. So like that, there is a sad, sullen atmosphere. So the government looked into this part. It worked the solution out through classical conditioning. It tried to bring about social change or attitudinal change through classical conditioning. How? So the government instructed the panchayat, the sarpanch, that every time a girl child is born, let the feasting be from the side of the government. So if the girl child is born, let some laddus or some kind of feast or some kind of treat or some kind of food be distributed to the relatives, the family, the friends, the neighbors of the person who has got a girl child. Along with the feasting, see to it that under Ladli Yojana an account is opened for the girl and some amount is deposited, so that after 18 years the amount matures, it ripens, and that amount can be used for the marriage expenses of the girl, or it can be used for her higher education. Okay. So when these two initiatives were carried forward repetitively, the impact that could be observed was this, that the sex ratio started improving in Haryana. Okay, by this classical conditioning, two stimulus being associated, that the moment the girl child is born, there is support from the government. For male child being born, no support created, but for girl child, there is support from the government, creating an account for her, extra facilities, and also celebration by the government, distributing sweets or a little feast for the local community. So when that kept happening by and by, this is something which led to this. In 2018, the sex ratio of genes, it jumped up to 924. Okay. So you can just connect with this given dimension, yeah, that is associated with. So rather than recalling schemes and like fighting to write 4 schemes related to it, remember the psychological impact. But because the chapter is about attitude formation, it is not about list of schemes. So don't pull social justice and schemes related component and stuff it up here. Don't do that. Focus on bringing about the change in a meaningful manner, and that is you work on the possibility of reflecting upon the attitudinal change, how it is brought by impacting upon the attitude, immediate condition, immediate stimuli. Because remember the theory I'm giving is that change the stimuli. If you change the stimuli of depression, sadness, not getting food, not getting feasts, and suddenly you're changing the stimuli, with the change in the stimuli the attitude will also change. That's what. Okay. So remember, so don't, those students who are recalling like or getting fixed about this scheme, that scheme, it's scheme khel lena, where in paper 2. Right now the focus is not primarily on scheme. Okay. If you are recalling schemes, do write, it is helpful, but the focus is on how the two stimuli are impacting the thought process of the individual, changing the response, changing the pattern. All right. Now, with respect to this, another exam, when we are speaking of this related to instrumental conditioning. So what are we talking about? Instrumental conditioning, what is it associated with? So instrumental conditioning, when we are speaking of this given dimension, we can connect it, as you can see this child is crying, right? So it is like associated with the behavior and attitudes, the behavior. First I'll explain this theoretically and then with example. So the behavior and attitude that is followed by consequent, that is followed by positive consequences, that is followed by positive consequences are reinforced, are reinforced and are more likely to be repeated, more likely to be repeated than the behavior and attitude, than the behavior and attitude that is followed, that is followed by negative consequences, negative consequences. Now what does this theory mean? Listen to it attentively and you will be able to understand this. Okay. So when we are speaking of this, SME, please help me with the smaller queries which students are raising. Okay. So when we are speaking of instrumental conditioning, what is happening? You can see there is a Walmart like scenario whereby there are like vegetables, fruits, etc. being sold, and there is a child who's heated up shouting. We can once in a while find such children, right? When we are going to any supermart or some like such space, or in a mall, And there we'll see that there will be one child who's very twisted, who wants to have candies or who wants to play a game or purchase a game. And if the request is not fulfilled, the child starts shouting at the topmost level, can pen will like just like drop on the floor dead and start rolling on the floor and start creating a tantrum before the parents. Parents start feel embarrassed, and when they start feeling embarrassed before the people, they're like, sorry, sorry, and they try to pick the kid and then say that, okay, whatever you need, we'll fix it, stop crying, stop throwing a tantrum. And then the child over the time period, and then the child like tries to calm down, all the acting is like put to stop. Now what happens is the child is actually doing an instrumental conditioning to the parents. Children are very smart, like human babies, they are born with conscience. So very quickly they learn how to manipulate their way to success, manipulate their way to getting their work done. So when they see that when I am in public space, and if I'm throwing a tantrum in public space by crying, shouting, rolling on the floor, things get done. So if I am in public space, let me get the things done my way. And what happens is parents succumb to this kind of emotional pressure or emotional, I can say, torture, or we can say emotional blackmailing. And when parents succumb, the child sees that I achieved success in doing this. So next time again, when I'm exposed to such a situation, I shall repeat my behavior by throwing a tantrum. So the child has a tendency to repeat that tendency. Now, what happens is, let the parents change the consequences. Means, like, let's say the child is like throwing a tantrum, crying, like saying that, oh, I just cannot, like I'll die if I don't get this chocolate, or I will not move from this floor if my toy is not purchased, whatever. So the parents can very patiently say that time is over. Now we will neither do the shopping nor we'll purchase things. Nothing is going to happen. Today's day is over. It is spoiled by you, because it is not just you throwing a bad impression for all. It is like we also throwing a bad impression that you are such a bad boy and you belong to us, so we all are a party to it. You are a bad boy, I am a bad mummy, your daddy is a bad daddy, we all are like bad because of your behavior. So today, all of us are going to suffer the punishment because of your behavior. None of us are going to have chocolate or ice cream or watch the movie. All the plans that we had, everything is over because you have thrown a tantrum. And let us get back home. The child will be like, no, and will cry. I'm like, no, no, everything is over. Let's go. And you just pick the child is shouting, you are saying sorry to everyone. Like, see, you are continuing with the same disgraceful behavior, and we are constantly saying sorry. You should also say sorry, but it's okay, you have to cry, continue with your crying. And the child is like feeling all the more agitated. Carry the child home, keep the child at home. The child will be angry, will not eat once, will sleep, all that will happen. Let the child continue with the drama. The moment the child will be hungry, will be crying, and keep counseling the child continuously that we all were punished because of you, we all have suffered because of you, we lost our tendency to, like, the chance to eat ice cream or to watch a movie, whatever. Keep reminding of the child that the behavior has led to it. And then you say that we will again go day after tomorrow, but if you continue with this behavior, we will again get back. So you think carefully before behaving. And this time the child is like having a very like ugly face, or having a very bad face, or a bad mood, or is like, okay, and saying, no, I don't want to eat, no, I don't want to do this. But then you say, it's okay, we have also done mistakes, everyone does mistake, it's fine, you did a mistake, you can always say sorry to us. We have said sorry to people, again we can try going to the mall, being good people. You will be a good boy, I will be a good mummy, your father will be a good father. Do the counseling constantly, showing that we all are party to it. And that's why we all have come back, we all have suffered. So that you are not cornering the child that it is you. Okay, the child feels that it is a consolidated behavior, a consolidated impression. These are very finer things. In day to day life, for immediate gratification, oh, we have purchased movie ticket. Arey Baba, your 1500 or 2000 rupee movie ticket is less expensive compared to the psychological tendencies that you are like earmarking, or the footprints you are creating, the, we can say, personality footprints that you are creating for your child. That is a major loss compared to a movie ticket, or compared to like some shopping and all that. So suppose when you are talking about this given possibility associated with like the children, then what happens is that next time when you are taking to the mall and the child is like crying, no, I need this chocolate, like, shush, shush, shush. If you do that, we'll have to get back home. We will consider that. We will consider that if chocolate can be purchased, and because candies or chocolates are going to give you like cavities, so we'll see that how much chocolate to purchase and when to eat and how to get the brushing thing done for you. So then the child is like, okay. And then after that, you're taking, you are like taking care of all those issues, and then the child realizes that there is a pattern to follow. So when there is negative consequence, the child will break free from that behavior or attitude. But if there is positive consequence, then the child will reinforce the behavior in future, repeat the behavior in future. This is instrumental conditioning. Okay, when the child is exposing you to a condition, the way you respond, the child conditions you accordingly, works upon you accordingly, and vice versa. You can condition the child back to the given possibility. All right, when we are talking about instrumental conditioning, like who's taking control of the situation. So if there is positive consequences, okay, then in the possibility of when a condition is happening, so if there is a positive consequence, when like a behavior or an attitude is thrown and it is well received, or the response or the success that the individual wanted for which that behavior or attitude is thrown, when there is a success, the person has a higher tendency to repeat it. And when there is a possibility of, like, let's say, failure, that I behaved in a specific manner or threw an attitude and it was not well received, I was punished for it, then the person has less tendency to repeat it. This is what is called instrumental conditioning. Okay, this is what is called instrumental conditioning. Negative consequences is better in instrumental conditioning. Yes, exactly. When negative consequences are there, then you can break free from bad habits, break free from bad behavior or wrong attitude from getting developed. All right, when we are speaking of it. Now, again, we can connect it with observation learning. So, what is observation learning? So, as the term goes, observation learning, you're observing and learning from it. In fact, this had happened, when I was a kid, not really a kid, I was in standard 8th or ninth when Shaktiman had come. So, that was I'm talking about something around 94, 95. No, yeah, 95 also. So, 95, 96, some 96 it must be, whatever, I'm like forgetting the year, but somewhat around that Shaktiman had come. So a lot of young kids were watching, who were like 7 years old, 8 years old, and few of them got so inspired by this superhero that they started jumping from the like first floor, second floor, breaking their hand, breaking their leg, few kids even dying in extreme condition. Now that is observation learning, when you're observing your hero or anyone and you are getting so inspired that you are imitating the person. In the process of imitation, you may develop positive attitudes, positive behavior, or you may indulge in self harm. You may indulge in some kind of negative repercussion. Okay, like for example, children who are playing PUBG, like 18-year, 19-year, 20-year-old, and those who were playing PUBG, what happened was, in terms of this observation learning, they got so immune to using guns in a virtual world, eliminating people, that when 9/11 happened, after 9/11 in US, in Walmart also you can purchase a gun. If you have money, you can purchase 2 kg potatoes, 1 kg tomato, 1 kg onion, and like 2 AK-47. It was that easy. It is that easy. So they purchased guns. They, like in the open streets where especially Asian communities were there, they targeted them and they started shootouts. And mass shootouts were carried forward after 9/11 by youth, by the youngsters. And a pattern was discovered that many of them are many of them are in the habit of playing PUBG. So they are in the habit of playing PUBG. They are angry about something in the society, so they are exercising that anger more freely through that observation learning they have gained in the virtual world and putting it in the real world when we are speaking of this given dimension. All right. So with respect to this, when we are again reflecting upon another segment, that is social comparison. So what is social comparison when we are speaking of this? Okay. So with respect to social comparison, we can connect it with Solomon Asch experiment. So Solomon Asch conformity experiment. So this is Mr. Asch. He was conducting this experiment. So he got a volunteer. This fellow did not know that the other three volunteers, okay, this X, Y, Z, or not, like, let me say this volunteer, this volunteer, and this volunteer. So 1, 2, and 3. These three volunteers are a party to Mr. Asch. They are connected to Mr. Asch. So they are just behaving as per the orders of Mr. Asch. This fellow was innocent volunteer. He did not know that the experiment is actually on him. So what was the experiment? The question that was raised was that which of the lines are equivalent to X? Is A equivalent to X? Is B equivalent to X? Or is C equivalent to X? It was quite obvious that B was equivalent to X. But all the three other volunteers, 1, 2, and 3, who were connected to Asch, they said that it is C. It is C which is like similar to or closer to X. Now, this volunteer who was hired, he thought in his mind that, oh, it is B which is closer to the size of like X. But now this is the pressure of community. This is the pressure of social comparison, that despite realizing that B is closest to X, he ended up speaking like others that it looks like C is closer to like X. Now this was an experiment which proved how we succumb to social pressure, how we are like intimidated by social pressure. That's why what happens, suppose a person is supporting intercaste marriage, okay, and suppose there are four people in the family or other relatives, seniors, who are not supporting intercaste marriage, and an intercaste marriage happens in that family. So everyone boycotts that couple, okay, that we are not going to be in contact, not talking, not behaving properly with them. They are dead for us, etc. Now what happens is, in this entire process, what happens is that um, the the situation evolves, and then this person who was supporting intercaste marriage, that there's no harm, there's nothing wrong, it is choice of partner. Now this person, when raises this doubt before his parents or her parents, that what was the problem if they did intercaste marriage, parents scold, you just shut up, this is a social custom, there's something wrong. If you will say this, people will think that you also have a similar tendency, they will boycott you as well. So if anyone else is speaking about that couple or bad mouthing or saying anything, you just remain silent. Do not support that couple. Don't try to be the new revolutionary. I don't want people to like backbite or talk behind your back or gossip about you, and you become the another person, even without indulging in the act, be blamed for it, or become the person receiving it in the end. So when the parents scold the child is like whatever. Then what happens is there is a marriage ceremony, okay. So in the marriage ceremony, suppose there are four aunts, uncles, etc. They are chit chatting and they are like, oh my god, imagine what disgrace that child has brought to our family, getting into intercaste marriage. And here this fellow is also there. And what happens is that they start chit chatting and they're like, yes, what is your opinion, was it good? Now there's a tendency that the child getting intimidated by so many people not favoring the intercaste marriage, despite this child favoring intercaste marriage, may end up saying in the heart of the heart the person is favoring. But because of this social comparison, the person's attitude, the expression, the behavior that person is making is like, yeah, somewhere elders were not consulted in any condition. Elders should be consulted, parents should never be made unhappy, they are like god for us, they should not be disgraced, okay. So the moment such a possibility is created, then what happens, the individuals, like all the other individuals, they like take a back foot, they're like, oh yes, 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 I mean this child is a conformist, is like us. So that's what social comparison. So social comparison is creating what? So social comparison is creating the possibility of, like, we can consider looking down upon, or the possibility of altering the dimension of how the people are behaving, or how the people are like responding to a given situation. Even when they don't approve of it, still their attitude and behavior is not in favor of it, okay. So they are not expressing their real self, they are expressing as per the larger community, how the community is responding towards that given tendency. All right. So that's what we can connect with. Now, as we are talking about it, we can also connect ourselves with the term attitude change. What is attitude change? Again, please remember, it is very important, this component of attitude change. You can get case studies also related to it, like case studies related to a specific district where you have to bring attitude change in the villagers or the tribal people or the people living in that area. There you can use the insights and theories which would be discussed now, and you can also use this component of attitude change in also theoretical questions. Okay, so theoretical questions like how we can change the attitude and behavior of the people, the temperament of the people. There is a social problem prevailing in an area, so what should be done to alter that custom, to alter that tradition, to free the people from that social misery or those kind of regressive behavior. Okay, so you will be connecting it with this theory that I'm going to share. These are like examples. This is something which we all can connect. So how do we influence and change people's attitude? So what are the three components of attitude? The CAB, right? So the cognitive, affective, behavioral. So with the cognitive, affective, behavioral components, you will be impacting the society and the people to change their attitude, right? For example, when we are talking about, as a DM, you have to start an anti smoking campaign. So you will be working on all the three segments: cognitive, affective, and behavioral. So cognitive segment, how? So you will start, like, telling the shopkeepers who are selling cigarettes or pan masala or any such tobacco related product, you are encouraging them to put up an advertisement. You are, like, encouraging the possibility with respect to them that put up an advertisement with respect to how many people have died due to cancer in last year, out of which what percentage of them were into consuming tobacco in any form. Okay, so when you are presenting facts and intimidating people with facts that 70% of the people who died last year due to cancer were primarily dying because of tobacco consumption in some or the other form. Okay, either eating tobacco directly or smoking tobacco, or, like, tobacco related products that have been created, whatever. So that's what. So you are presenting facts. So that is cognitive. When you are empowering people with facts and discouraging them for going like into consumption of any form of tobacco consumption or smoking per se. Okay. Then affective, you work on emotions. Like, for example, you can see the government puts a big advertisement, a big picture on, we can say, the cigarette packets, or it can be placed on these pawn shops also, where any person who is coming to purchase the tobacco related product or the cigarette, the person is seeing a mouth which is affected by cancer and badly damaged. Okay, so that is something associated with emotions. When you start working on emotions, impacting people emotionally, when they are seeing the image, they are either scared or they, like, become very confused that whether we should continue smoking or consuming these things or not. Okay, then comes behavior. Behavior is associated with past experience, as you know. So this segment you can connect it with, like, the Mukesh ad which was run in the movie halls. You can remember that, right? So anytime a person is going to watch a movie, at that very moment the Mukesh ad is like running, and a person is seeing and is like, oh my god, like this person, they're saying that, oh, he used to love to smoke and he, like, got cancer, and he had a, like, a very nice wife, a very nice kid, he had a happy family, and slowly and steadily everything started crumbling behind his medical expenses, and everything got damaged. And as things, like, it started crumbling and it did not have a healthy proposition of existence, in that given scenario we all can connect with this given possibility, with this given, we can say, unfolding of the reality, whereby we can connect with this given dimension, that we can say, like, this person, Mukesh, when he is dying and of cancer, and later on the movie hall becomes dark, and then it is announced that Mukesh died on so and so date, on so and so year, and then everyone is like, okay. It is like, something which a person has narrated the person was alive on the screen talking about the possibilities, what went wrong, and then the person is dead also. So it becomes a part of your past experience. So when you're going to buy the cigarette again, you're reminded of that ad. It is impacting you emotionally. You're seeing the images, disturbing images, and then facts are also put over there on like a laminated, we can say, poster or something like that. So or at all the three levels, when the impact is there is a fair possibility that your attitude would change. Similarly, for encouraging the payment of tax, we can think of this given dimension that people can be encouraged for the payment of tax through different ways, like working on cognitive fact that how the taxed money has been used in different ways, at affective level how it is a patriotic act, service towards the nation, and b behavioral aspect that how the in the past year the taxed money has brought so many changes. So at all the three levels, when you're encouraging the people to pay tax, all right, so that's there. Again, in the facts of the situation, you can also create like some perks or advantages, that you can have dinner with the governor, or you can get a VVIP treatment at airport by entering from the VIP queue or VIP entry gate. Similarly, again, for example, for bringing attitudinal change, the Australian government did it. It wanted to make people aware towards good health. So it said that anyone who performs above a specific benchmark at the marathon, those people will get free entry into one of the premium gyms. So free membership or access to one of the premium gyms. And that's what the Australian government did. Australia. So Australian government did to encourage people towards good health. Okay, so similarly, you can see for attitude change, sometimes cognitive components are used. Sometimes we can say affective components are used. Like for example, fog. Fog uses cognitive component. When it is saying that there are 150 sprays or like whatever 300 sprays, and it will last for the smell will last for 20 hours, whatever. These are facts which you are trying to impress your customer with, and on the basis of which it will purchase. But in Axe ad, we all can see the affective component being used, where they will show that the guy is applying the deo, and the moment he applies the deo, the women flock from all corners like flies. They just get attracted and they just get stuck with the guy, that wow, this was something magical. This guy, he smelled something so good that we are unable to resist getting close to the guy and sniffing him, and just trying to get a flavor of that smell, that wow, what an amazing smell. Thinking of that. So Axe works on the affective component to modify our attitude, to have a attitudinal change towards purchasing that specific, we can say, um, deodorant. Slice also uses that affective component, where they will be talking about Arm Sutra and like Katrina Kaif having that Slice with so much of amorous tendency, so much of thirst in her, that you see and you're like, ah, Slice looks very tasty and I will have Slice, right? So that is like working on the affective component, we all can see. Again, school attendance. With respect to school attendance, when Swachh Bharat Abhiyan and Swachh Bharat Mission was very active at that time, in few schools this practice was introduced. When the villages were declared open defecation free, those people who don't know about it, they will read about it and they will come to know about it. So when the villages were open defecation free, while roll call for school attendance, what was used was this method by the students. So the teacher said that anyone who is present is not going to say present ma'am or absent ma'am. If you are present, say ODF. If you are absent, someone is absent, say open defecation means say OD. So OD means absent. ODF means present. Okay. So that is how they encouraged the people towards attitude change. Youngsters, younger children towards attitude change, so that when they hear the word ODF constantly, every single day, they think what is open defecation free, why open defecation free is good, why it is helpful, why it is hygienic, why it is necessary. So that is how you are bringing about attitude change, by incorporating it as a part of your behavior, as a part of your experience, past experience, when you're constantly revisiting the term. Okay, another thing is also by the right kind of role model, you can create that. So Vidya Balan becomes the role model for, we can say, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. They don't hire Katrina Kaif for Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Why Vidya Balan? Because she has, we can say, a public appeal of a domestic woman, a woman who looks like a social reformer or like a teacher or like a lawyer, like a woman who is educated but connected to the roots. That is the vibe that she gives as an actor. So that's why, like she symbolizes like a typical Indian woman. So that's why she was given the contract of the ad. Okay, so which you can connect with attitude change when we are speaking of this given subsegment. Then comes the component of social influence and persuasion. So persuasion, remember that question related to the person who was working in corporate office and he was encouraged that go ahead for hiring male candidates, not female candidates. So there the term persuasion had come. I said we will talk about persuasion when we are discussing about the chapter of attitude. So here, when we are going to discuss about this given dimension, this term can be connected with Aristotle's model of persuasion, which is also called the rhetoric triangle. Okay, rhetoric triangle. So what is the rhetoric triangle? It is associated with three components. One is ethos, second is pathos, and third is logos. Now what is ethos, pathos, and logos? Ethos seems to be connected with the cognitive component. Pathos is associated with affective component, and logos seems to be connected with the behavioral component. So when we are talking about ethos, so ethos is associated with what? Intelligence, trustworthiness, morality. So when you are talking about this given subsegment pertaining to intelligence, trustworthiness, and morality, you can associate this given subdimension associated with SME. Please support me with the example. Students are like quoting examples and they want a response, so just fit them in the right category so that they get some kind of, we can say, confidence. Okay, now, so when we are talking about like ethos, it is based on logic, so it's based on intelligence. Okay, that's what Aristotle says, that it is based on intelligence, trustworthiness, morals, our sense of right and wrong that we develop logically, that why something is right, why something is wrong. Pathos is associated with emotions. When it is associated with emotions, so yesterday, recall what I had said. I said that stereotypes are associated with cognitive component. Prejudices are associated with affective component. Discrimination is associated with behavioral component. Remember yesterday we had discussed that. So pathos, which was associated with affective emotional aspect, so emotions, prejudices, motivations, all these are associated with heart, like components which get motivated from your heart. So that is pathos. And logos is associated with when someone is trying to influence your taste, influence your thought process with evidence, facts, and data. Okay, some universal truths. So evidence is coming from what has happened already. You're collecting it as a proof. So evidence is coming from the past. Similarly, data, when you're collecting what is happening in and around, and that is associated with data. Again, universal truth, when we speak of universal truth, when you're collecting the data, it is also coming from the component of the past. So that's what we all can associate when we are discussing about universal truth. All right. So club these given possibilities, of evidence, data, and universal truth. Okay, and then only you can substantiate the given subsegments accordingly. All right. So when we are talking about with this given dimension, no, Ananya, don't use your extra own brains. When some thinker who has been like who has been reflecting upon this concept like for years together and then coming to a theoretical conclusion. Okay, so with your immature mind or with my immature mind, we should not try to say that, oh, like logos should be associated with cognitive dimension. No. Okay, what is introduced, accept it. And how accept it? On the basis of your own logic. How? What is evidence? What has already happened? You are collecting the data. And what was behavior? Behavior was associated with past experiences. So what is evidence? It is based on past experiences, not what would happen. on past experiences. What is data? What has already happened? So that was behavior. Universal truth, something that has been established in the past, right? So when we are talking about this, right? So when we are talking about cognitive, affective and behavioral, now let me expand and explain the concept further to all of you, to explain what is social influence and persuasion and what is Aristotle's model of persuasion. So for example, ethos. Now ethos was based on what? Remember, cognitive. So when we are talking about cognitive segments, okay, you can see this ethos, cognitive segment. So intelligence, trustworthiness, morals, what is the right thing to do. So when you are seeing the president, now in this case, ex-president, so when you see the president administering the polio medicine, and when you see the president administering the polio drops, okay, giving the polio drops, you understand that this is something important. This is something needed. It is factually required for my children. So that impacts, that creates trust. Okay, so we can see with seeing the president, trust is generated, and when trust is generated towards an act, then it is influencing our attitude, okay, towards an act. So our attitude is generated through what? Through social influence or persuasion. The persuasion is created by whom? So the persuasion is created by none other than the president, that this is the right thing to do. This is what you should do. Again, we have seen that in the advertisement, Amitabh Bachchan was hired. Why Amitabh Bachchan? Because he looked like the credible elderly face of India, the trustworthy elderly face of India when we are speaking of this given dimension. All right. So who will ask question, please public their answer because they will help remains also, please. Basav Raja cannot make sense out of this sentence. So SME, either simplify this language for me, or Basav Raja, you reframe the question. Okay, now, so when we are talking about this component associated with ethos, we can also connect it with, like, when we are talking about someone generating trust. So when Shah Rukh Khan, who is considered as the handsome man, the romantic man, okay, so when this so-called romantic hero, who is so popular amongst women, so quite popular amongst women, when he is endorsing a product, okay, fair and handsome, then men have a tendency to trust that when this guy is saying, then I can trust this product and probably use it. And when use it, maybe I can get good results. Okay. Similarly, Virat Kohli, the face of fitness, the face of clean eating, the face of, like, healthy eating habits, healthy lifestyle. When he encourages that this is a product too yum, which is not baked, it is zero trans fat, it is rich in proteins, so it is a healthy snack to indulge in. So trust is generated that yes, maybe this is a good product, and when there is trust, you have a tendency to consume that specific product when we are speaking of this given dimension. Ishita, focus on what I am explaining, not what your friends are asking, because that will cause distraction for you. Okay, let us focus on what is being taught. For that purpose, we have SME to simplify his query. Don't worry. Okay, so when we are further discussing about this given dimension, too yum is not tasty, no problem, Shiva, it is not meant for taste. It is primarily meant for snacking without too much of guilt, because anything which will be like too healthy may not always, okay, until and unless you develop a taste for things like salads. Salads are so yum, I really like salads, but not everyone has the taste for salad. Like my brother, he eats salads half-heartedly. He's like, what kind of, like, like grass am I eating? So because he's not into, so that's like how you develop attitude. Anyway, when we are talking about this, we can see that when the government encourages a component of education, encouraging girl child education, as you can see, this is Madhya Pradesh government's advertisement, that every child should go to school and no child should be left behind. And then it is further saying that when the girl child is educated, she is illuminating the society, she is brightening the society. So when the message is coming from the government, it increases our trust or credibility that the government is committed towards improving sex ratio, female literacy, child literacy. Okay, so that is how it is like connected with this given dimension. Again, with respect to like Make in India, when we speak of it, when we see the Prime Minister endorsing Make in India, the like Finance Minister endorsing Make in India, we develop a sense of trust that there will be policies which will be supporting the Indian entrepreneurs, the Indian business venture, and the possibility of, like we can say, interventions which will give a boost to Indian products or Indian services when it is launched in the market. All right. Further, we can also see the component after ethos, we can connect it with pathos. When our emotions are put to job, okay, to for social persuasion. So pathos as social persuasion. What do we see? We can see that the slogan of Domino's. So Domino's says, "Ye hai rishton ka time." Ye hai rishton ka time means this is the time for relationships. Means if it is a weekend, and you remember the slogan of Domino's and your friends have come home, or you have relations like relatives coming home, in that given situation, you can connect with this Domino's pizza when we are talking about, and you can bring everyone together and serve Domino's because it is bonding relationships as per the advertisement, as per the slogan. Similarly, McDonald's, I'm loving it. So it is influencing you, socially persuading you that it is something that you'll eat and you'll fall in love with. You are going to get emotionally happy, okay, emotionally happy with respect to it when we are speaking of it. Similarly, Logos. Logos is based on what? Behavior. Change the behavior aspect. Okay. So if you can connect with this given subsegment, you can see that it is associated, logos is associated with evidence, data, universal truth. So it is talking about like change your behavior. So here you can see where your mask stays safe. Facts. Okay. Whereby your behavior needs to be changed, your experiences that you're having in the society needs to be changed. Okay. On the basis of what has been continued, how you have to like sustain it, maintain it. Like don't overspeed, don't drink and drive, always wear a seat belt, respect traffic rules. So you are working on behavior. Okay, you are working on the behavior aspect. Okay, what kind of data? Krishma, where is data? It is associated with influencing the behavior, right? Influencing the behavior, logos. So, when we are reflecting upon persuasion and influence, what is it associated with? So, persuasion, they both are associated with, they both are like involved with changing the behavior. How? Persuasion as well as influence, they both change the behavior. So, what does persuasion mean? Persuasion means when you are deliberately trying to change, consciously trying to change another person's behavior. Okay, consciously trying to change another person's behavior through words or through actions. Okay, so that's what. And influence, what is influence? You are not trying, your existence is creating the impact, means your character. Okay, your existence is creating the impact. So here you are trying to influence the person. In persuasion, you are deliberately, consciously trying to change the, like we can say, the words, the action of a person. But in influence, you are trying to change another person's behavior based on your like character, your existence. It's like walking the talk, walking the talk. You are exercising the behavior, others are getting influenced by you. Now try to understand it with examples, right? For example, you can see this when we are talking about persuasion. Political leaders of different political parties, they indulge in persuading the people with facts, datas, insights, with saying that what we are saying is correct, the ideologies we possess is correct, and when people listen to them, they can get persuaded, impacted. Okay, whereas when we speak of Swami Vivekananda, okay, or when we are speaking of Mahatma Gandhi, then we can think of influence. Their personality, their character influenced the people. Okay, that's how we can understand the concept of influence. So what is the meaning of persuasion? Let us understand that. So persuasion has attitude change. Okay, it is modifying a person. Remember these words, these are keywords. No shortcuts to it, no alternative synonymous meanings to it. Just remember it as it is. This is like the way your teacher used to say in standard 4 or standard 5, copy the language of the book. That's what I am saying. Copy the language so that you do not mince your words or create your own faulty interpretation in the process of writing. Just copy the words. Remember this thoroughly. Okay. So when we are speaking of it, a modification in one's mindset. That is like we can consider the consequence of exposure to a communication. So you're like modifying a person's thought process by communicating with the person, talking to the person, influencing the person accordingly. So persuasion is an attempt to change. Change what? People's emotion, people's beliefs, and people's behavior. Through persuasion, you are trying to impact these aspects of other human beings' existence. All right. Then further we can see, is persuasion ethical? And when there is suppose a comparison between persuasion and manipulation. Now please pay attention to this also, because a lot of people tend to get confused. They feel persuasion is manipulation. No, 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 not even distantly. Persuasion is ethical. Okay, yes, persuasion is ethical, but manipulation is not. Manipulation is not ethical. It is incorrect. Why? So the difference between the term persuasion and manipulation, now you can see these are such technical jargons, no? I mean, till now in the society, you have been using these terms interchangeably. You think if someone is trying to persuade, the person is trying to manipulate emotionally. No, no. In the domain of psychology or in the domain of like we can say ethics, integrity, aptitude, it has a distinctly clear meaning whereby the meanings are not overlapping. It's not overlapping. So, when we are talking about persuasion, first we can reflect upon the component of intention. So, a person who is trying to persuade you cares for you, like parents, like teachers, persuading you to build a good habit. So, if you are able to change the habit, you will become a better person, and the teacher or the parent will also win because they are able to create a positive influence that they wanted to create. So it is a win-win for both. So persuasion is win-win for both. But suppose someone is saying that take a bit of drugs, it tastes so good, you lose all your stress, anxiety, and just relaxes you, calms you down, and you're like, no, like it, I'll get stuck in it. Oh, one time nothing happens and I'm offering for free, I was having it, is so great, so just you can take one shot doesn't disturb. So what is the person doing? Manipulating you into a bad habit. So if the person is able to do that, next time you will purchase and you will share. Okay, next time you will be purchasing, and that person, if the person is into selling drugs, the person will get a customer. So it is win for the person who's trying to manipulate. It is lose for the person who's getting affected. Okay. So the one who's trying to affect, trying to like manipulate, that person is winning. And the person who's getting affected is losing. So it is the intention. In persuasion, it is win-win. Intention is win-win. Let's both of us win. And in manipulation, there is win-lose. All right. Again, deception, another thing. With respect to deception, so in like when we are talking about persuasion, right, in like information is given that if you do this, this is what happened. If you revise properly, this will be the impact. If you make notes, this is the impact. Have you written this thing, this is what is going to get created. So in persuasion, there is no deception. There is absence of deception. No fake information is created. No fake impression is created. Whereas when we are talking about the component of, like, let us say, uh, this manipulation, in manipulation, there is deception. Something else is presented and something else may happen. Like thumbs up, a sugar loaded aerated drink. It will show that you become such a brave person. There's so much of bravado. You're jumping from buildings and like crossing streets and lanes just to grab a bottle of thumbs up. And when you're drinking it, you're tasting thunder. Whereas it is a sugar loaded drink, there is a sudden adrenaline rush, there is a sudden sugar rush, and that just like, startles your senses, and that's how you feel refreshed. But the truth is, it is a deceptive message because it is damaging your body. The impact of that sugar, that highly concentrated sugar, remains on your body for more than 24 hours when we speak of it, right? So that's what. Then comes the third component, that is coercion. And when we speak of coercion, coercion can be mental or physical, both. So in persuasion, you don't coerce, you don't create a force, mental or physical, no kind of force is created. Okay. Whereas in manipulation, you try to get your things done even when some kind of mental pressure has to be created or physical pressure has to be created, then also you go for it in manipulation. All right. So when we are talking about this component of persuasion, for persuasion, we can like reflect upon this given example of nudge theory. This nudge theory can be associated with this term nudge theory was used in economic survey, and this term was associated with persuasion, and it said that, for example, in Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, it said that Swachh Bharat, Sundar Bharat. So that was like, trying to persuade people that go for cleanliness, that will make your country beautiful. So Swachh Bharat, Sundar Bharat. Clean India, beautiful India. Yeah. So that's how you can connect with this given subsegment. So like, henceforth we can say, we can quote this sentence, that victory of persuasion is the sign of a civilized society. Only in a civilized society we can see this given possibility, that we can say the society is moving towards the possibility of like accepting persuasive suggestions, and it is growing towards betterment because of flexibility. Because I told you, attitude should not be strong, it should be healthy. And what is healthy attitude? When you are open to reconsider, introspect, reflect, and change if needed. So persuasion creates that healthy change in your attitude. Got it, all of you? Right? So with respect to this, when you are understanding this, we can further move to understand the meaning of social influence. So what is social influence? So social influence is created, we can say influence is created by actions and thoughts, which is created by our family, peer group, groups, or any other kind of person. So actions and thoughts that have been influenced, our actions and thought which gets influenced by groups like family members, kinship members, relatives, or another person, some senior person, like some professor, some senior who is influencing, or some sibling, or by peer pressure. Sometimes it is also by media, by marketing. So who are we generally influenced by? These are the bodies, all of you are aware of it. So family, friends, religion and caste, education, okay, social media, even the fear that what people will say, okay, cinema and web series, marketing, all of it is constantly influencing upon us. Okay. So when we are talking about this component of social influence, we are going to understand the comparison between compliance, internalization, and identification after the break. Okay. So it is 7:04. Let us take a discuss of change. So maybe I can draw a diagram and help all of you to understand, simplify this concept for all of you. So yeah, just a second. Even this one. So with respect to this, when we are speaking of this given subdimension, we can reflect upon the component of levels or processes of change through social influence. It's okay, 1 minute before time or 2 minutes before time doesn't make any difference, isn't it? Sometimes I take 1 minute extra also. So levels of change through social influence. We can connect it with, like, let us consider behavior, attitude, and values, right? And here we can talk about first compliance, two identification, and three internalization. Yeah. So with respect to this given diagram, as we reflect upon the insights related to it. So compliance, when I'm talking of compliance, in compliance there will be behavior which is approving of that act, but the attitude change will not be there, values will not be changed. Okay, for example, like let us say it is a mandatory provision to dress up in black, to dress up in black at office. All right. So if a person is like, if it is mandatory for the person to dress up in black, like inside the office, the person is getting in and the person is wearing black because the person is encouraged to wear black. All the, like, people, the, we can say, working in the office are encouraged to wear black, and the person hates the black color. So just to comply by the expectations of the job, the person will be into, okay, the person will be into the behavior of compliance, whereby the person is wearing black and getting, like, that kind of acceptance in the office. But is it changing the person's attitude towards black color? Is it changing the person's value system towards black color? No, not really. The value remains the same. Okay, it is like the values remain the same, the attitude towards black color remains the same. Similarly, when we speak of identification, so when there is identification, again, for example, like let us say someone likes, like, Kareena Kapoor, okay, and someone has a liking for Kareena Kapoor, and, like, let us say she endorses, okay, she endorses, like, a brand called Lakme. So now what will happen? The person will identify with the actor. So the person will identify with the product, that yes, Lakme, okay, Lakme is a product which my favorite actor is using, and that can change the attitude of the person, that even when, like, there is no coercion, there is no pressure to purchase the product, the person is by choice purchasing the product, that she will not endorse a wrong product. So let me purchase it. But it has nothing to do with value. The value system remains the same. Now, third comes internalization. So under the component of internalization, it is the behavior that is changing, the attitude that is changing, as well as the value system that is changing, because the impact is too deep, because you are really working upon the possibility of impacting upon the person at a very deep level when we speak of it. All right. When we are understanding that how persuasion can take place and how social influence can take place, and under the component of social influence, when we are understanding the term compliance, identification, and internalization, we can further carry forward with respect to types of social influence. I've given language to what I have explained. You can read it as a homework, this given segment, read and understand it. Okay. So when we are speaking of this given subsegment pertaining to, I've discussed this, Sarashti, difference between social influence and persuasion. That has been discussed just few minutes back. You'll revise the slides and you'll get to know. Okay. So when we are talking about types of like social influence, if you remember, I had discussed the example with respect to Swami Vivekananda. So he was an influence, right? And persuasion, political leaders giving speeches. Remembering, Srishti? Don't forget that. Example of internalization, when your parents like let's say teachers say that get up early, it's good for health, eat healthy things, do exercise, and suppose you believe in it and you start enacting upon it. So it is going to impact your behavior, it is going to impact your attitude, it is going to impact your values. You will grow up and you will speak about the similar things to your children, to your juniors, to people who are getting inspired and influenced by you, right? That's how internalization takes place. Now, there are different types of social influence. One, we can give example of Chanakya's Niti. So Chanakya said that social influence can be created by Sam, Dam, Dand, Bhed. So Sam, it means persuasion. Okay. Dam is temptation. Punishment is Dand. And Bhed is division. So when you are persuading someone, or you are tempting someone, or you are punishing someone, or when you are creating a mental division by sometimes you complain, sometimes you backstab, sometimes you gossip, all that is creating division mentally, emotionally in the heart. So that's what. So Sam, Dam, Dand, Bhed are also methods of creating social influence. Please, SME support Kusum, she needs to refresh and she'll be able to see. So Sama, Dama, Dandabhed are associated with persuasion, temptation, punishment and division, which are associated with Chanakya's Niti. It is associated with, we can say, social influence, types of social influence that we all can reflect upon. Again, with respect to this, we all can see there can be also cult influence, and cults can be of different types. Like we can say religious cults, personality cults, and commercial cults. What are religious cults? Like for example, you can think of, you can say Osho, you can think of Jaggi. Okay. So they are personality cults. Like, sorry, they are like we can consider associated with religious cults when we are talking about it. Okay. Okay, we can see that these individuals, they come up with their own insights, their own, like we can say, ideologies by which they try to influence upon the sense of righteousness, what is right, what is wrong. Okay, so that's something which we all can talk about. Personality cults, like you can see Rajnikant. Okay, Rajnikant. Or we can see that there can be other actors, actresses. So actors, we can think of politicians, which who have their own fan following. Okay, then there can be commercial cults like the Apple phone or Apple products. There can be like mothers can be like having their own commercial cults related to Tupperware. Don't leave my Tupperware here and there. Okay, yes, Buddha was also associated with a religious cult. For that matter, Muhammad Sahib can be associated with a religious cult. For that matter, Christ, okay, Jesus Christ can be connected with religious cult. So all that. Okay. Now, so when we are speaking of this given subdimension, then the third segment which can create the possibility, because we are discussing types of social influence. So Chanakya's Niti, impacting social influence, cult influence can create social influence. We can think of self-fulfilling prophecy, creating social influence, leading to social influence. What does this mean? Self-fulfilling prophecy. So this means that directly or indirectly, you are responsible for what is impacting you, the feedback that you receive. Okay, so the feedback that you receive influences your beliefs and behavior. Beliefs and behavior. And when it impacts your beliefs and behavior, that is how it creates a social influence. Like, for example, suppose a child goes to meet an astrologer, and the astrologer suppose predicts that this is your best time going on. Okay, best time is going on for the next, like, let's say 3 years, and if you prepare for IS exam during this time period, you will crack this exam. So suppose the child is like, wow, this is the best of my life, and and the person must be like, when you are studying, then you are able to, I hope, Mithun, you can see there is the word three, and the third is associated with social influence. So there must be a reason why I have written it. That means it is also a type, right? Okay. So, like, let's say the astrologer is predicting that the best of the time, when we are speaking of it, so is going on, and in 3 years, if you prepare, you will clear the exam for sure, and this and that. And the individual believes that, okay, Baba, I will like really prepare. It's like you must be enjoying to study. You must be really loving to study, understanding the concepts. It's just that you must not be revising, and you must be sometimes sleeping and not disciplining yourself a bit. That must be the only backlog. Yes, yes, that happens. So no problem. Just get like all seated and up, and then just start working towards the direction, and everything will fall in place. And you're like, yes, yes, for sure. So in this given situation, what you see is the astrologer is predicting that your best time is going on. You believe in it. Okay. And the moment you believe in it, it is shaping your behavior to work towards it. And suppose within 2 years, you clear the exam, you become an IS officer. So what is happening? Self-fulfilling prophecy. You believed in someone's idea, you enacted upon it, and then it shaped your destiny. Another example we can think of is of Thomas Alva Edison. So Thomas Alva Edison, what happened was that when he was a child, he came back home one day from the school, and he said that my teacher has given this paper for you, ma, you just read it. So his mother reads it, she becomes like very tearful, and then she reads it out aloud for her son, that your son is a genius. The school is too small, like, for your child's acumen. We don't even have good teachers to train your child. So please teach your child yourself. So what happened? Like, Edison was like, wow, I'm a genius in the school. My teachers are also not matching up my reputation. And it's a very tiny school. So I really need some self-tutoring, home tutoring. So, like, the child who gets inspired. Many years later, when like Edison's mother died, and he like became one of the greatest inventors of the century. So, like, he started looking through the family things, and then he saw a folded piece of paper which was lying in the corner of the desk. So when he opened the drawer of the desk, he saw that paper, he opened it, and in the paper, the thing that was written, which was given by the school, it was written that your son is addled. Addled means mentally ill, and we won't let him come to school anymore. So what did the mother do? She changed the prophecy. She changed the narrative. Okay. And Edison, he like cried for hours, that if I would have been informed as a child that I'm a dull child, a slow child, it would have impacted me so negatively. So, what I made is by what my mother created the reality for me. When my mother said, you are a genius, your school is not up to mark, the school is too small to empower or educate you. And when I believed in it, okay, that is something which transformed my reality. So, Thomas Alva Edison, he wrote in his diary that Thomas Alva Edison was an adult child that, by a hero mother, became the genius of the century. Okay, so that's so inspiring, so beautiful. So that is associated with, we can consider the possibility of, like, self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Labdhi, here labor officer and like minor IS officers are having so much of pride. Pride is associated with self-esteem. Becoming narcissist is a problem. Okay, you have achieved something, you should take pride in it, that you contributed meaningfully towards the growth of the civilization. So pride is not a negative word. Egotism and narcissism is. So you should know the words thoroughly before using it. All right. Anyway, so self-fulfilling prophecy is changing the narrative inside your head. It is not an external influence. It is coming from outside, because it is a feedback. But that is changing your own narrative. It is influencing your belief systems. It is influencing your behavior. And that is how like an attitudinal change is happening because of social influence. So self-fulfilling prophecy is also a social influence. The society, someone from the society is giving a feedback to you which is influencing your attitudes, beliefs and behavior. Got it? Consult dictionary, Tripti. Now, so with respect to it, we can also reflect upon the next subsegment, that is obedience. Remember obedience? I was talking about this subcomponent of like obedience when I was discussing the dimension pertaining to, just a second, when I was like, just a second, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Yeah. So persuasion, influence. Yeah. So, when we are speaking of the possibility of bringing about change in an individual's, like we can say, thought process, in that very possibility, when we are speaking of obedience, which is also like, a format by which we all can see that a specific kind of impact gets created. Okay. So, in this given subsegment, we all can reflect upon the given possibility that how an individual can change or alter one's own behavior simply because of, we can say, the pressure that gets created. So the component of obedience can be associated with the direct instructions that are given. Direct instructions. So classical conditioning I had discussed. After classical conditioning, I said that even direct instructions when given in the form of rules, regulations, obedience, and when we are listening to the authority, we are blindly following the authority, then also change is happening. Then also we can see the possibility of attitude formation happens, the possibility of, we can say, social influence happens, right? So when we are, yes, social self-fulfilling prophecy will lead to affirmation. It is not affirmation, leads to affirmation. Now, so when we are talking about obedience, we can connect it with the Milgram experiment. In the Milgram experiment, here all of you can see there is the experimenter, and the experimenter was actually not creating an experiment on the learner. Okay, on this person the experiment was not happening. The experiment was actually happening to this person, but this person was unaware of it, that I am the person on whom the test is being done. This person was unaware that I am being experimented. I am being experimented. So what happened is that when we are speaking of it, not L, not L, rather I. So this awareness was somewhere missing. Okay. So what happens, you need to understand, the experimenter was like, he told, he informed this person, here referred as teacher, but not really teacher. He was basically the executioner who was executing on the action. So he was teaching a lesson, teaching a lesson to the learner. So the experimenter said that, see, we are going to conduct like a specific experiment, and this learner is going to learn the lesson. I'm going to ask whether the person has committed crime, this or that or not. And as the person, because I have proofs and this and that, so as the person will be lying or responding specifically, I will ask you to increase the voltage of shock. So shocks can be increased up to 450 volts. More than that will kill the person. Okay. So, and the shocks can also impact the person mentally, physically. It can be dangerous, it can be painful, right? So the experimenter said that I'll be asking questions. There is a strap that is attached to the person's hand, and the person will be given shocks, and you keep pressing the button as I instruct. So the person was okay. Now the experimenter started with the experiment, and the actual experiment was going on this person, the teacher, rather than the learner. So what happened, the person said this thing to the teacher that, okay, let us start with the experiment. So just asking him that, okay, have you committed this crime? So the learner was like, no. So he said, okay, give him like something like 50 watt shock. So 50 volts shock was given, the person like, ah, and then after that, like, enacting. There was no shock getting regulated. The buttons were pressed, the color was flashing, bright red light was flashing. Okay. But some noise were also made, like kind of noise, but there was no shock that was transferring from the wire. Okay. So the person enacted. Then what happened was that again this person said, but we have proofs that you have committed the crime. The person was like, no, no, that's wrong evidence. And then this person like says that to the teacher that, okay, fine, you increase the shock, just give 200 volts. So the person gave 200. The person again shouted too much. Again this time, again the person was like again asked a volley of questions. Then the learner responded negatively. This time he said, give him 350 volts. So 350 he gave, and this person kept shouting and jumping and feeling helpless. And he was observing all of it. Teacher was observing all of it on the learner, but did not even question once that isn't it risky. So what happens is that eventually this person learner, he fainted because of the shock, the tremendous shock that he was receiving. Now, and there was silence that was heard. So silence was heard, and he was like, he fainted. But when it was reflected that how the trainer felt, the trainer was said that he was just following the orders. He was not questioning the order that whether giving 350 volts is correct, 400 volts is correct. Can it not kill the person? Is it even advisable to give this much shock? So not questioning the authority, just following. Okay. So when you don't question the authority, okay, so when you don't question the authority, right, you simply follow the rules and regulations. You simply follow the rules and regulations. Okay. Don't question, you don't contest, you're just simply following the rules and regulations. That is something which can be connected with the component of obedience per se. All right. When we are discussing about this given possibility, right? So that is something which you can connect with Milgram experiment when we are speaking of it. All right. So here we step to the next chapter, that is emotional intelligence. Another like sub-segment which is associated with psychology and which is going to create this given dimension. Yes, you can quote this experiment in the exams, whether it was Solomon Asch's experiment, whether it is Milgram experiment. These experiments are given so that you can prove your answer with facts. You are not writing stories, you are validating your answer with facts. All right. Yes, it was also done by officers who were following the command of Hitler. When they didn't question that what kind of order is coming, how it is going to kill like innocent children, like senior adults, like youth of the country. So how valid is the order? How relevant is the order? Similarly, Japanese army following the instructions of the seniors. So anytime inhuman crime is inhuman crime is carried forward in any part of the world under anyone's order, that is nothing but sheer exercise of obedience, and how obedience works as a social influence impacting people's behavior and their attitude. Got it? Now, with respect to this, when we are reflecting upon questions of emotional intelligence, you can first get a first hand orientation, the nature of questions. So this is the question you can see. All humans aspire for happiness. Do you agree? What does happiness mean to you? So your insight pertaining to what is happiness, and explain with examples. You must be seeing in ethics paper, there is a constant, we can say, love for understanding the concepts through examples or illustrations. And that's why I give you so many examples so that you get inspired to create more examples in the same line, and examples so that you are able to reproduce it or create it when you have to write in the exam. The right set of examples are hitting upon you, and that's why you should also read the notes. Okay. Yes, you can think of order with respect to Jallianwala Bagh. You can think of many things which are happening around the world when leaders, fundamentalist leaders, they order their followers to commit massive crimes on like ground in the name of caste, in the name of religion, right? That is also something associated with the possibility of following the order blindly. Okay, so whether it is past, present, or something which has happened in any part of the world, all examples can be incorporated. Now, anger. So happiness, we can see happiness is one emotion, anger is another emotion. So anger is a harmful negative emotion. It is like injurious for both personal as well as professional life. So then the second part of the thing statement is the question. It is discuss how it leads to negative emotions and undesirable behaviors. So negative emotion, undesirable behavior, how? Okay, how it is leading. So how anger is influencing you, impacting you, that you tend to behave in a specific manner. So few things you can derive even from the chapter of attitude. It impacts your affective component, your cognitive component. You lose your logic, you get emotionally like titillated. Okay, and then you have a tendency to react. Anyway, you will be learning a lot from emotional intelligence also. You'll imbibe that wisdom, club that wisdom, and then write the answer. So the question, second part of the question is, how can it be managed? So how can it be managed? Steps to control it. Okay, steps to manage it. Okay, again you can see, how will you apply emotional intelligence in administrative practices? Okay, I'll share some notes with all of you related to emotional intelligence as well, some reading material which will qualitatively enhance your sense of understanding, along with the bullet notes which has already been provided and what is being taught right now. Okay. So emotional intelligence. What is emotional intelligence? It is the ability to make your emotions work for you instead of against you. Because emotions may sometimes make you disturbed, but emotional intelligence makes you a smarter leader, a smarter person. You know how to handle relations, professional or personal, with a smarter insight. You can connect with this, right? Remember that smartness you gained for the first time when I was talking about ethics in public relation and private relation. So in private relation, I quoted Adler and Mahatma Gandhi and what they said, how to maintain ethics in private relation and how that is going to save our relation. That's what. Okay. So emotional intelligence is the ability to make your emotions work for you. Okay. Work for you rather than instead of work against you. Where have I always sent the notes, Ritika? Where have you always received the notes, like ethics notes, like notes related to attitude, related to foundational values? So the place where all those notes have been like shared, in the same place this notes will also be shared. So either you have not downloaded those previous notes, that's why your question is where, right? So like, and that means it has been a week since you have not downloaded the previous notes and material, which is so important. So as I tell you that when you raise questions, you people speak of your history, history of level of preparation, level of reflection, level of connectivity. Okay, and that's why you need to be like very careful when you interact, right? Oh, it's your first class. Okay, then this is second Ritika. We have one more Ritika in the class. All right, that's how I remember students names. Okay, Ritika. So sometimes it happens in morning class also. There were two Niteshes. So first Nitesh said, oh, there's another Nitesh also in the class. That happened like few days back. So that happens. No worries, no worries. So please, like SME, guide Ritika where to find the notes. This child should be supported immediately. Now, so what are the main components of emotional intelligence? When we reflect upon it, there is yet another question related to emotional intelligence, and another segment which all of you can see is related to, yeah, there are two Anjalis also. Fine, fine. Okay. Now getting back to this PYQ. So what are the main components of like emotional intelligence, and can they be learnt when we are talking about it? This is the nature of question that is given, and this is what we are going to start off with, indulge with. So the subcomponents of the chapter are these. First is utilities of emotional intelligence. So that's why you saw how is emotional intelligence helping in administration, in governance. So utility. So what is the role of emotional intelligence, relevance of emotional intelligence, significance of emotions, again concepts and components and models of emotional intelligence. Then application of the components of emotional intelligence and concepts in governance, how we can apply emotional intelligence in governance. All right. So when we are speaking of this given subsegment, okay, we can reflect upon what does the word emotion imply. So the term emotion, it implies as a strong feeling that we derive from our circumstances, our mood, our relationships with others. Okay, so it is associated with mood, relationships that we have. So it is connected with circumstances, and it is what? It is an instinctive, immediate, instinctive or intuitive feeling, which is different from reasoning or knowledge. Like someone, you are like suppose moving in a public transport like a metro, and someone pushes you. So the instinctive emotion, you're like, you're suddenly shocked, surprised, or angry, or you're like, everyone is pushing me, you also push me, and you become sad, right? So this is the instinctive emotion. Okay. Or like someone starts laughing that, oh, life has become a push push game, so someone starts laughing at the tragic reality of life. So different people responding differently on the basis of their instincts. Okay, instinctive emotion, intuitive emotion, immediate emotion. It's not based on reasoning. Some people can slap, some people can become aggressive, whatever. That's what. So emotions, when we are speaking of it, so emotions are what? Complex reaction plus our capability or ability to understand the emotional information. Okay, understand the emotional information, when we are able to interpret the emotional information, that is something which clubs and gets created as emotion. For example, in the morning only I just thought of this, that if you have watched the movie Joker, okay, when Batman, Joker, so the character of Joker is very interesting. And when the movie Joker, if you watch it towards the end, like like tormented by the pathos of life, tormented by the challenges of life, this man is so deeply affected, so helpless, so like you have a mix of emotion towards this character. There is sorry feeling, there is fear, there is a tragic reality, you also have a sense of hatred, a sense of disgust, all mingled together. But the dominating sense of feeling sorry for him is so tremendous that a lot of people fell in love with this character. And towards the end, when he laughs, the laughter is not like when we say a person is laughing, you're like the person is happy. But not every laughter is associated with happiness. Laughter can be of Ravana also. Laughter can be of the character of Joker also. Laughter can be like after like failing an exam, a student is laughing at the tragedy. Okay, laughter can be that also. Laughter can be associated with like joyously celebrating the success of your friend. Laughter, various manifestations. So emotions are complex reactions, and you are supposed to interpret the emotional information that is coming with that complex reaction. Club the two, you understand the emotion. Okay, so there are different types of emotions when we are talking about this given dimension, like angry, worry, disgust, bored, frustrated, happy, jealous, sad, rage, sacred, like scared, surprised, anxious, different form of emotions that we are surrounded by, that we experience in our minds and heart, right? Which shapes our attitude, which shapes our responses and behavior, right? So there are three major components associated with emotions when we speak of it. So what are the three major components? The first component, as all of us can see, is the physiological change. The second component is associated with the subjective cognitive state. Cognitive means how it is impacting your thought, okay, how you are thinking, how you are receiving the facts. And third is associated with, you can see, expressive behavior. Okay, so how the past experiences are also shaping your emotions. So all of it clubbed together creates, like the final emotion, the final emotional reaction. Like, let me give you an example. Suppose, like, let's say a student is appearing for the mains exam. Okay, so in the process of okay, welcome Isha. Like, we have already started with emotional intelligence, and like, you should have joined in time. So this is what is an earnest request. Do not join randomly, and celebrate learning by connecting the dots bit by bit. That's how you connect previous chapter with the next chapter. And when I give explanations, you enjoy it. Now, so okay, the pointed note, what is it? What is the topic of new note after the note attitude? Please, SME, help her. I'm unable to understand what is she talking about. Okay, so with Isha, either the language has to be more explicit, because SME has also shared you the notes. The notes means the slides. I hope we can say requirement has been fulfilled for all. If the notes has not been shared with you, the PPT has not been shared with you. Okay, so the SME has shared with everyone. You can just download it, have an access to it. Now, with respect to physiological change, subjective experience, and behavioral experience, when we are speaking of these three things, let us understand that. So, suppose you are going to write your mains exam. So, fair chance that you start having sweaty palms, right? Even if it is suppose you are writing it from a hill station or some like Uttarakhand or Himachal, is your main center somewhere, and you're having sweaty palms. You are having in the cold winter also, like of September or October, it's getting cold and sweaty palms. You're having physiological change. So there is a increase in the heartbeat. There is increase in blood pressure. Someone can feel nauseatic. Okay, someone can have an upset stomach. Anything. So body is unable to handle so much of extreme mental pressure. So there are physiological manifestations of it. Then there can be subjective cognitive processes whereby you are experiencing the kind of stress. There is an arousal, there is a stress. You're like, oh my god, how to handle this given possibility? I'm really under the pressure of like presenting the best version of myself, but I don't know how I will be able to do that. So I have to get selected. This is my first attempt or third attempt, whatever. I've put in my years of hard work together. So you are subjectively interpreting the facts of the situation, that 2 years of hard work, if I don't compete and complete this exam, don't get selected, parents will get me married. Or my father says, I'll make you a rickshaw puller, purchase a rickshaw for you and you'll pull rickshaw. There's no other way out. So all those things, you're calculating the facts of the situation and responding to it accordingly, right? So yeah, egg seller, all those things you can think, right? So in this given situation, when we are speaking of this, we can connect with the subjective cognitive. Subjective means when you're interpreting, cognitive means facts. So when you're interpreting the facts of the situation. And then there is an expressive behavior. Expressive behavior, so you drink water to cool the heat. You are drinking water and calming yourself down, the anxiety you are experiencing, to write the paper, right? We can also associate it with another way. A student is aware that there is too much of palpitation. Okay, like suppose a person wrote the mains and realized it's very important to do test series, and before test series very important to privately work on answer writing, because when you have done answer writing in private space and then you appear for test series, your performance is sharper and better. So suppose in this given situation, this is what happens. So physiological reaction when you go for the first test in test series, when 50 students are sitting in the hall writing the mains test like you are having sweaty palms. You're like, oh my god, everyone is there. All these people are writing mains. God knows who will get selected, who has revised well, who has written mains how many times, who is already selected but on a lower rank and wants to do rank revision. God knows what's the level of this room. So under the pressure, the person in test series is having sweaty palms. The person is like, I have memorized everything, but I'm able to remember things partially. So facts, you are thinking, interpreting your facts. The expressive behavior is like you are drinking water, trying to compete with others, finish the answers in time. So that's doing that. But then what happens? Your body realizes. Again, when next week you go to appear for the test, so this time the body is like, oh, again another test, again palpitation, sweaty palms, but not so much. This time sweaty palms was less. Third test, even lesser. Fourth test, even lesser. Because the body now realizes that, oh, this fellow will write test every week. So this is going to be a regular habit. So the physiological changes, the anxiety, it starts reducing. That's how you learn how to regulate emotion. That's why test series is not just about learning how to finish answers in stipulated time or how you are handling question answers. It is also about building your emotional intelligence towards how to appear in the exam. how to like create a healthy temperament physiologically, cognitively, okay, in an expressive behavior, in a smart manner possible. Got it? So that's also something that we can say. So, with respect to this, we can further move ahead. Vishal, we are dealing with another chapter. SME, please help Vishal, because that will direct the entire, change the direction of the entire lecture. Okay. So, maybe I can take your query towards the end. All right. So, like this is you want me to revisit the previous chapter. That will not be healthy for rest of the class. So, let us respect the sanctity of the class. Meanwhile, SME just responded if like it is needed. Now, with respect to this, when we are talking about this segment pertaining to this behavior, so over the time period, you are changing your subjective thoughts pertaining to test series, and with that, your behavioral response also changes. The adrenaline rush you had in the first test, it reduces. So, finally, when you are going for the mains exam, even though that day your heartbeat will be slightly higher, blood pressure will be slightly higher, uh, like compared to regular tests, but still you will know how to regulate the emotion as per the suitability of the mains exam, right? So these are the three components of emotion, that is physiological change, subjective cognitive states, and expressive behavior. Then we can also connect the given possibility associated with the types of emotions that we are like connected with. So there can be different types of emotions, right? So when we are speaking of this types of emotion, we can connect with this given dimension associated with, so maybe I can just draw this and explain this to all of you. So there will be a reason for arousal. There will be a reason for arousal of the emotion. So that will be associated with cognitive appraisal, the fact of the situation. So there will be cognitive appraisal. And we can then see there will be a subjective experience. Subjective experience. Subjective experience. And after subjective experience, we all can see there is a behavioral response. Behavioral response. Like, for example, okay, suppose you are walking in the park, and as you are walking in the park, you see that there is a snake that is sliding through, and it is just passing by, and you see, and you're like, oh boy, a snake. Thank God I saw it in time, and it's just like 5 feet away. Let me slowly and steadily move out of this park and not even risk coming to this park. What if it bites me? So you just try to run away out of fear, the emotion. So the what is the reason for arousal? The presence of the snake. The fact is the presence of the snake. What is the subjective in like so snake? You are seeing the snake. What is the subjective experience? Fear. All right. And you have a tendency of running away. The behavior is running away. Now, like let us say a Chinese person is seeing the same snake. Okay. So a Chinese person sees the same snake. Okay. So the moment the person sees a snake, maybe the person thinks of a good snack. That wow, a snack is moving. So how to catch it? Okay, how to catch hold of it? Catch it. And the behavioral responses, the person will try to find tools, try to find tools to catch. Got it? That's what. So it is, what are we observing? There is a reason for arousal which leads to a subjective experience which further impacts our behavioral response. All right, you can connect with this. Fine. So there are types of emotion that we are associated with: positive emotions and negative emotions. So positive emotions are associated with these kind of emotions which you know: joy, interest, contentment, love, faith, etc. So they are pleasant and rewarding, right? You, with positive emotions, you are open for new possibilities, and it also builds your personal resources. Whereas when we are reflecting upon negative emotions create distrust, fear, anger, jealousy, abandonment. And what is the action that we have? Like when we are exposed to negative emotion, we have a tendency to escape or attack, or like, if it is an animal, it will throw poison. If it is an insect, it will throw poison when exposed to negative emotion, like hit back, do something like that. So action that has probably saved our ancestors. Why? Because when our ancestors were exposed to negative emotion coming from an animal, plant, anything which can hit them, kill them, harm them, they learned how to respond to it. And that we was passed to us through DNA, that was passed to us through genetics. And when we received it through genetics, when we learned it, when we ingrained it through genetics, it started impacting our behavior on ground. So we have a tendency, when we experience such situations, that we can have different sets of responses. So like, for example, fear, so we have a tendency to escape, right? If there is abandonment, someone is cheating and abandoning, quitting upon us, we have a tendency to attack. Okay, so something like that. So our behavior responses are also shaped by our past. Our emotional responses are also shaped by our past. Again, negative emotions, there is also a positive side to negative emotion. What is the positive side? They can be valuable and constructive. Why? Because through the negative emotion, we are able to understand our emotional maturity, our level of mental growth, our level of like where we stand in the society, our level of, we can say, a sense of understanding and connectivity with the larger larger possibilities which are unfolding for us in the given society. So when we are talking about negative emotions, we can connect it with like a valuable or constructive possibility, whereby we can connect with, like, persistent distress that is motivating us, that is impacting us, right? It is something which can be associated with mending a relationship, or we can also like connect it with like finding a new direction in life. So because when we are able to see that there is a negative emotion hitting upon us, like someone is abandoning us, someone is like, let us breaking up, a boy and a girl are breaking up, so the person will realize that probably there is some hidden message for me, some goodness lying for me. So maybe the relation was getting saturated, and it is high time that I move ahead of the relationship, look for better chances in life, opportunities in life, growth opportunities, career opportunities, focus my energy and attention in another direction. So you are trying to find new direction. So negative emotion may not always have a negative behavioral response if you interpret the intention behind it. If you are able to understand, we can consider the valuable and constructive insights associated with it, intents associated with it, right? So that is something which all of us can connect with when we are discussing about this given possibility. All right. So so you must have heard that given by one of the, we can say, thinkers of medieval times. He said that nindak niyare rakhiye angan kuti chhavaye, bin pani sabun bina nirmal kare subhaye. Means keep your critique close to you. When the critique is close to you, the critique is like a free soap water, because the person is going to cleanse your home, cleanse your mental home. Because when the person is criticizing upon you, if you don't become negative by listening to those negative feedback, if you don't generate only negative emotion, you reflect, is there any truth behind this criticism? If there is any truth behind this criticism, how can I alter upon it? How can I become a better person? How can I reflect upon the possibility of growing better? So that's why negative emotions don't have negative manifestation at all times. You can become better, you can alter the possibilities pertaining to like who you are and what possibilities you create, right? Now, when we are discussing about this given possibility, we can also connect it with Yerkes Dodson law. So when I'm discussing about Yerkes Dodson law, we can connect how emotions, especially when we are talking about negative emotions, they can also be associated with the possibility of what we are understanding and responding. So Yerkes Dodson law like gives us an understanding of like the relationship between stress and performance. Okay, you can connect it with a regular session or a regular lecture also when we are talking about it. So like, let us say a student is listening to a lecture, okay, so and the person is listening to a lecture, and the person is like not making an effort to read the notes, make bullet points, revise. Suppose like some odd child is doing that kind of thing. The child will be like quiet in the class, be like, okay, how many more like lectures have to be attended, and the child is like not self motivated to study. So the person will, without homework, without studying, without making notes, the child will start feeling bored. Hey, why is this so tough? Hey, why I'm not able to connect? Why is this? So the boredom is coming because the person is too relaxed. There is zero stress about exam and about relevance of that specific subject which is being taught, that subject which is going to create a meaningful breakthrough in getting selected. All right, so when the child starts taking it very lightly, that okay, whatever, I'll learn it someday, I'll revise it someday, prepare notes someday. So in that given situation, with when we are speaking of this given dimension, we all can reflect upon this given possibility. And what is the possibility? When we are reflecting upon it, we can see that the individual, when the person is too chill, too cool, too calm, okay, so when a person is too chill, okay, too chill, okay, too easy, too calm, in that situation the person will get bored, will not make an effort to grow better when we are talking about this given situation. All right. Similarly, when we are talking about when the person starts making notes, solving previous year questions, so bit by bit the person is like the performance will start growing up. When the performance start growing up, you are seeing improvement, that yes, now I'm understanding the concepts, now bit by bit I'm gaining confidence, I'm understanding what is where. So in that situation, when you are seeking improvement, when you are like chasing the concepts, okay, as ma'am is or as sir is teaching the concept, let me prepare the notes simultaneously, let me finish the chapter simultaneously, let me go through all the notes related to that chapter in that time period only, so that the subject is not lagging after the subject is completed. Let me finish like the previous year questions at that time only. So now the person is like focused, energized, working, and is effortless, like constantly challenging and chasing the targets. So there is optimal performance of that person when there is functional stress. That's why a bit of functional stress is necessary. If you think, oh, I have to appear after 2 years, so the moment you think 2 years, you'll feel easy. But the moment you feel there are thousands of pages to be covered, I have some 650 odd days or 750 odd days to appear for my mains exam. And going by the average rate of studying and revision, I have to read 70 to 80 pages per day. I am reading just 30 pages. I am going nowhere. I'm making it a 5-year program. So let me get over 5-year program and get into the mode of like preparing and finishing things in time. So when you are energized, when you are focused, when you are working effortlessly, there is optimal performance. That's how you get into optimal performance. All right. Now, with respect to this optimal performance, when we move to the third segment, that is, suppose a person is like, oh my God, I'm studying for 15 hours or 20 hours, and still I'm unable to do answer writing, or still I'm getting bad marks in test, or some student is feeling that I want to study, but like, there are so many issues. I have to take care of household chores, I'm doing a job, I'm managing so many things. So when the person is too stressed out while studying, the person will not be able to connect. First, there will be fatigue, that I'm feeling so tired. Then there will be exhaustion. The person will feel the fading energy. Then the person may fall ill, and over the time period, there will be breakdown and burnout. And this will lead to the status of being distressed. So you'll be in a condition of distress. Systematically, the component of distress growing bit by bit. Okay. So when we are speaking of this given possibility of performance and stress, the diagram, the performance and stress, you can see that how it is associated with who you are. Similarly, in an interview, suppose a child has gone for an interview and is too relaxed, they are like parents only, and big deal, I have appeared for 10 like mock interviews, I'm too chill. So if a person is too chill, the person may not attentively listen to the questions and may keep asking in the exam that, sir, please repeat, I just missed the question. Or the person may be like, okay, I'll respond whatever I know, I mean, big deal, it's just an interview, I've written very good mains, so it's not interview only which is determining. So the person will be too chill, too calm, and that calmness is a negative possibility. It is something which is like not increasing the performance level. Whereas if the person is listening to, like, let us say, um, we can say the stress level, when we are talking about it, if the person is experiencing functional stress, that, oh god, there are so many seniors, they are constantly judging me, my gesture, my demeanor, choice of words, the way I'm responding, the thoughts I possess, so I have to be like constantly focused about every single word I'm speaking, my facial gestures, my hand movements, everything should be up to mark. So you're energized, you're focused, you're working effortlessly, right? So that is optimal performance in the interview. Whereas when we speak of this given possibility pertaining to distress, what happens? The child is sitting in the interview and is so nervous that starts having sweaty palms, then sweaty, we can say, underarms. The shirt is developing patches. The child is looking nervous. There are sweat droplets on the forehead because the child has never ever appeared in the interview and has no confidence and is not confident that about language, about expression, about thought, and connecting all those possibilities together. So that is something which may lead to like certain physiological changes, and you can notice that the child is visibly uncomfortable, is fumbling, is unable to give right set of answers. Okay, so this is something which is actually associated with like how any individual tends to perform and what is the relationship between stress and performance. A bit of functional stress is also necessary. Okay, when we are speaking of it, a bit of functional stress is also like required. In the absence of it, like, you cannot really get into the segment of performance per se. Okay, so I hope all of you are able to understand this Yerkes Dodson law. Okay, now, when we are talking about the component of emotional intelligence, there is a traditional position associated with emotional like intelligence, that is like before 1990. What was the thought process associated with emotional intelligence? So we see traditionally emotion was not considered important, neither it was studied nor considered as a core component for studying disciplines. Okay, you will see when you read about philosophers, they will be focusing on intention, what is the real intent of a person behind responding or enacting upon a situation. You will see that a person will be the philosophers reflected upon the wants, the desires of the people, the purposes of the people, without paying much attention to emotion. So the impact of emotion on action is something which was studied only after 1990, especially when you are talking about like David Goleman. His book itself is called Emotional Intelligence. He did some qualitative research and hyphenated it to the world, that what is the role of emotion and why emotional intelligence is needed. So the discipline, or not discipline, the subject matter, the content of emotional intelligence and role of emotions, it started emanating that the discipline and again discipline, the subject matter and the curiosity towards what is emotion and its role in our thought process, in our decision making, it developed after, we can say, 1990. Okay, in the creation of understanding human behavior, in the possibility of interpreting how vital it is to shape our behavior and decisions per se. uh, can we do hand move while answering cause everyone sits straight? Okay, so when all those people who are associated with hand related gestures, it is advisable no. When you are sitting for the interview, you can sit in this mudra like of Buddha. So this will keep you focused, calm, your energy will be in the optimum level. And by keeping this level of hand, like for example, when you're responding to things even in private capacity, try to keep it like this and placed on your thighs. So this is something which will keep you focused. You can see many a time, you will see a lot of leaders, international leaders also, you'll find them sitting like this, like this. You can search this. And this is a mudra which you study in history. If you are interested, you can search mudras in Buddhism or mudras in Hinduism. So hand gestures or mudras, you can just Google search hand gestures and mudras. You will see the impact of mudras on your mind, your meditative state, your capability to respond to a situation. It regulates your human emotion, it regulates your temperament. Okay, some people say do like this also, but this can be stressful. This can be stressful. You are entangling, you are holding yourself back. This is easy, this is seamless, this, all right, because you are asking about hand gesture. You can work on this. Now, with respect to this, when we are further moving ahead, chat private, Shikha. Shikha, what is this question about? I cannot understand. So, Maria, I hope this is understood by you. Okay. So, when we are speaking about the possibility of, like, the cognitive appraisal, for cognitive appraisal of an individual, we need to like work upon how to handle stress in consonance with performance. Why do you think that yoga or meditation is said that it should be done? Yoga or meditation also has an impact on our physiological response. Like when a person is constantly doing yoga and becomes a yogi or a yogini. Now the term yogi or yogini, when we use this term, it is associated with what? Controlling our physiological response. Okay, controlling our physiological response. So can we cannot connect it with yogi and yogini terms which are nowadays popularly used, okay, as a cheap stunt or as a, we can say, faulty interpretation just to sensationalize through all various online channels and websites with a list of stretches and exercises. No, list of stretches and exercises is not what is making you a yogi or a yogini. It is associated with bringing your mind, your heart, and your spirit in semblance with each other. Integration. Yoga literally means integration. So, what are you doing? You are integrating your physiological response and your emotional response with how you want to regulate it, how you want to guide it or direct it with your spiritual energy. So, like, you can see that with yoga, you can control your physiological responses even to a certain extent. Those who are like, I would say, profound yogis, they also learn how much, like we can say, insulin should be secreted from the pancreas, how to regulate, we can say, the adrenaline rush. Okay. So when we are speaking of this given dimension, I can also recall like Buddha. Buddha was asked this question when his favorite disciple Anand died. So one of his other disciples said that, Buddha, because you are the illuminated one, don't you feel sadness in a situation where like your favorite disciple is gone? So the same thing, cognitive affective segments he touched. He said that fact is everyone is going to die. Sooner or later, everyone will die. That's the fact of situation, fact of life. Then comes the emotional aspect that, like, when we think of the emotions, it does affect us. We can feel the flippant in the heart. We can feel the lump in our neck. We can feel the lurch in our stomach. There are physiological responses to the sadness, which we can feel. And when we feel it, our awareness should awaken. Awareness about the futility of life, the futility of sadness, the futility of, like, because the physiological responses will rise, and that makes us aware of the mental state, the emotional state. And when we become aware of our emotional state, we can think of how to regulate it. We can think of how to rationally guide it, logically guide it, save ourselves from any kind of, we can say, distressful response, distressful behavior. Got it? So that's what, when we speak of the yogi. Okay, so that's the true yogi when we speak of it. See, MS Dhoni was called Captain Cool. Why was he called Captain Cool? Even in the last over, he could alter the match. Why? Because of his cognitive appraisal. He could regulate his emotion very well. So he could regulate his emotional so very well that, because of which, logically, because of which he never like experienced, you can never see him getting distressed, accepting loss, accepting fear. because of which, we can say, he became Captain Cool, and he was able to alter the possibilities during his captaincy, and everyone loved and appreciated his composure and capability to regulate emotion. This capability to regulate emotion comes with emotional intelligence, right? I'm reminded of Will Smith. Will Smith had said this, that fear is not real. It is the product of the thoughts that you create. Danger is very real, because danger is what? Factual. It is the fact, it is the cognitive appraisal of the situation. He said that danger is very real, but fear is a choice. So danger is real. You identify these are the threats, how I need to respond, how I need to regulate my action. Fear is what? It is a choice, how we choose to respond to that given problem, right? So that's what. Fine. Similarly, when we are speaking of this given dimension, we can think of mood and emotion, difference between the two. When we are speaking of mood, mood can be like the intensity is low. Intensity is low. Okay. And mood intensity is low. So when we are speaking of it, duration can be higher, can be longer. Emotion, duration is low, duration is low, intensity is high, intensity is high, right? So for example, we can think of anger. Okay, anger, frustration, sadness. You cannot you cannot live in it for long, otherwise you will die. They are intense emotions, and that's why when there are intense emotions, a person who's angry, like shuddering, shaking, people offer water, cool the energy, cool the heat. A person is crying, you provide a glass of water, cool the heat, because any kind of intense response, intense emotion heats up the body. That's why water creates a physiological change. It reduces the temperature. So the moment the temperature of the body reduces, the emotion also changes. That's why people offer water. Please have a glass of water. Okay, because it will cool off the emotion. The physiological change will impact the mental or the psychological state of being. All right. I hope all of you understanding this. So with respect to this, when we are connecting with this given dimension, you must have also seen tears of happiness when people are too joyous. Suppose you get selected, All India first rank, All India whatever, All India under 10. You see that and you have tears of joy. Your parents have tears of joy. Oh my God, my child has created history. My child has created a breakthrough. Why? Body cannot hold a lot of emotion. Emotions are too intense. Duration is low, emotion are too intense. If your body cannot handle it, you will experience cardiac arrest. You will experience some immediate physiological impact which can impact you or hurt you. That's why you start crying. In moments of extreme happiness, you start crying. Okay, so that's the response of the body. Getting it, all of you? That's why tears are healthy. Anytime you're too intense with emotion, you cry, because it cleanses, detoxifies you with intense emotion. So it's good to cry, it's natural to cry, and that is why we can say nature has given us tear glands. Exercise them when it is needed, guilt free, because it is going to not only cleanse your emotion, it's going to bring stability and balance in your response. And always remember, a crying person is not weak or vulnerable. It is possible the person is detoxifying and saying that let me first cry, just lighten my heart, and once I'm just little cooled off, I will respond with a calculated segment. And right now let me just calculate what all things have happened. So that's also something which all of you can connect with this given dimension. When we are speaking of the possibility of emotion, and when we are understanding the possibility of emotion, how it is impacting us, that's why we say that in prelims you are testing all the facts, figures, you know history or not, geography or not, whether you know the possibility of polity, current affairs. So prelims is a game of IQ. But when we speak of mains is the game of EQ. And if you are able to channelize your emotions correctly in the exam, then you pull through. Emotional intelligence, because you need to regulate your composure, balance, management of time, recalling the content, right kind of examples, right sets of thought process, constantly motivated by civil servants aptitude and attitude, and blending that in the answer, in your answer, that kind of value system is directly indirectly reflecting in the mains answers, in the essay, all of it, right? So that is what we can speak of this given dimension. All right, I hope all of you can understand that. So, when we are talking about emotions, we can reflect upon the functions of emotions as well. So, just a sec. So, post 1990, I told you that there was development by separation between emotion and action. And that was being questioned by a number of philosophers, psychologists, neurobiologists. And the neurobiologists, they even hypothesized that emotions may be supportive in action rather than opposing it. When you're smart enough, you know how to regulate your emotion into energy, that energy which is required to keep you motivated for working diligently, keeping you, optimistic, like giving you the right set of insights how to maintain that level of pace and action. Okay, so that is what like interview is more of a balance of EQ and IQ. Some facts are also like given, but mostly your emotional intelligence is put to test in interview, Shivaji. All right, so that is like something which all of you can now understand this given dimension. Okay, Shreya, glad to know that. How about Divya? Is Divya in the class? I'm just curious. Is Divya in the class? I don't know whether she was in morning batch or evening batch. I think she was in the evening batch. All right. So, when we are speaking of this given possibility associated with neurobiologists, they hypothesized, they considered that emotions are what? They are supportive to our action. Like, for example, the Yerkes Dodson law. I was talking about it. So, when your emotions are constantly understood by you, and so emotions can motivate you, right? Emotions can motivate you, they can guide you, they can create hope, right? They can channelize, they can channelize your energy, channelize your energy. So Divya, are you connecting with ethics now? You were quite nervous something like 4 or 5 days back. So I was just concerned that day when you were like quite nervous. I was like, bit by bit it shall settle. All you need is, understanding the concepts first, then revising it, going through the notes which I'm sharing with all of you. It will settle in. I know the discipline is new, but I'm also aware the discipline is the one of the most profoundest discipline to shape your personality. Only if you choose to connect with it, only when you choose to develop the possibilities of strengthening your journey of preparation. This is one of the most beautiful disciplines. That's why I said high level of subjectivity is there. Ethics is the paper where, unlike GS paper 1, 2, and 3, you can score 135 or above. Okay, so that's why. So just do justice to it. Yes, sure, Aniket. Okay, so when we are speaking of this, it can motivate you, it can hope, it can generate hope, it can channelize your energy. All right, so that is something which all of you can connect with when we are talking about post 1990. The developments that have unfolded are in favor of developing emotional intelligence as a distinct subject matter, a distinct chapter, which helps us to understand, okay, which helps us to understand and regulate our understanding of emotions and how they can be helpful in our various roles, professional roles, personal roles, how it can be helpful in our various roles. So we will be continuing with this discussion again tomorrow. So hope all of you are connecting bit by bit. All right. So we'll continue with this discussion and how to build upon the concepts further ahead. You can revise the PPTs meanwhile and be more diligent in revision. The greater number of times you revise and the language of ethics becomes your language, your thought process, the higher the tendency you will possess to perform well in the exam. All right, so revise, revise, and revise. That's the only thing that I can advise and encourage all of you towards. So thank you, all of you. Good night and take care.